Welcome to the May 16th work session of Mayor and Council of Hagerstown. This meeting is now called to order. First up, we have 2023 Juneteenth celebration event sponsorship request with Mrs. Alicia Person, Dolman Black Heritage Museum.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have with me Miss Patricia Smart, who is one of our committee members, and I'd like to bring her up so that she can also tell you guys about one of the segments that we're having. We asked for these funds for Juneteenth, and every year it seems to grow, not only in participation, but also in committee members. So I'm happy to report that this year is no different. I think the more people know what in fact Juneteenth is, the more engaged they become with it as a matter of celebration. You know, celebration for the survival of the descendants of the enslaved, but it's also a celebration of the descendants of abolitionists. So I like to say, especially when I'm being interviewed, I tell people, I challenge them to shake their family trees because they may just have an abolitionist, a descendant that was an abolitionist that falls out. And that has made it more, I guess, palatable for some who actually didn't know and just thought it was about just this one thing. I did also want to clarify why it is that some jurisdictions celebrate all the way up to December 6th. So, here's your history lesson for today. In 1863, when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, it actually, the word that it was signed did not reach Galveston, Texas until there was an order from President Lincoln, who sent a general out there to spread the word that in 1865 that they had been freed for 2 years. The reason why it goes, some jurisdictions celebrate all the way up until December 6th is because there was 11 states within the Union that did not acknowledge that the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. And then it became an amendment to our Constitution, the 14th Amendment, which ratified that all the enslaved were free. And unfortunately, this is just a piece of knowledge that I learned over the past several years, is that Maryland was one of those holdout states. But it's a beautiful day today because Maryland is one of your more progressive states in the Union. So that's your history lesson for today. Juneteenth is about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. It is also about the descendants of the enslaved celebrating the fact that we did survive that and as a people. Now, I came in today, and when I was getting on the elevator, you all know her as Andrea, I know her as Renee. Montague downstairs gave me these 2 books for the museum. And oddly enough, if you all know anything about the Green Book, as African Americans, most of us know what the Green Book was. I remember my dad always saying when we were getting in the car and going traveling, he'd say, run up and get my Green Book and get my Blue Book. The Blue Book was was his book that he used in the church, and that gave all the rules and regulations in the charter for the church. The Green Book, however, was a book that black motorists used to travel. It gave a list of all the safe places where black people could spend the night, eat, use the restrooms, and things like that. So Miss Montague gave me this book, and it just made me smile and warmed my heart. But there's a little unknown fact that most people in Hagerstown do not know. In that Green Book, when it speaks to safe places along your traveling where black people were accepted and could lodge, eat, what have you, get gas even, one of the places was the Harmon Hotel here in Hagerstown. It is in the Green Book. We have an exhibit dedicated to the Harmon family. We have the logbook from the hotel within our collection, And again, it just points to why this collection is valued and necessary, and why the museum is necessary, but I digress because that's not why I'm here. I am here because we do host the Juneteenth celebration. However, I think it is important that any time that I go anywhere to speak or to speak to anyone, I drop some education, some knowledge about who we are as a people and why we are important and invaluable to the American history. So without further ado, I would like to say that we're doing it for 2 days this year, June 16th and 17th. The 16th is a Friday evening, and yes, that's our educational evening. And instead of doing quotes from abolitionists this year, we are concentrating on what happened next. And so what happened next is going to cover the period of Jim Crow. Once again, it is vital and important for everyone to understand all of American history. And it wasn't until I began doing the research for that this year, and if I knew it before, I don't remember knowing it. But the Jim Crow era ran from, and hold your hats, from 1863 to 1963. It's a long time. It's a long time for open oppression. One might argue that, and we're still feeling the effects of that still to this day. However, we are concentrating on that period. And within that period is the Harlem Renaissance, which is from 1920s to the 1930s, where we saw places like the Cotton Club in Harlem, where we saw poets and literary writers such as Zora Neale Hurston and James Baldwin, Langston Hughes, and I mean, if any of you all are familiar with this, then you know, but if you are not, I would take a moment and Google them. Google Harlem Renaissance, Google Jim Crow. That one's gonna be a little more saddening because, you know, Jim Crow gave this country the KKK and lynching. But still, it's our history. So we're going to ask notable people from the community, and this is also my ask of this body. If any of you, and sir, I don't really know you, but welcome.
Thank you.
And you're in my old seat. But we ask any of you all that would like to recite something from those periods on Friday evening. We will be doing that again this year. It is imperative that we not only educate our community as to what this history is, but that they also see the people that represent them also engaging in this opportunity to come out and support. So beyond the financial side of our request, we're also requesting any of you all to participate. And last year, year before last, many of you did, and it was a fun night, and I've got the pictures to show. But we would hope that you all would get on board also. I do want to take a second and list many of our partners in this. We are partnering with, of course, hopefully the city, even still, we will still partner with the city, but the city, we're hopefully getting the county on board. The Washington County Arts Council, Meritus, is on board. The Arts Council, CVB, Hagerstown, Washington County Convention and Visitors Bureau is on board. And a host of, I mean, every nonprofit is invited to come and do outreach those 2 days. We don't turn down any nonprofit that wants to bring their outreach to the plaza, because one of the major goals of the Juneteenth celebration for us as organizers is connecting people with resources. So we chose the University Plaza because we do have a large number of unhoused there, and we are bringing the services to them. We don't ask anyone to remove the unhoused from that plaza on that weekend, because these services, this outreach is targeted for their support, for their benefit. So that's Friday evening, and then we close out Friday evening with a socially conscious karaoke. So we ask anyone who has vocals to come on out and do your bit with a community-based karaoke. We only ask that the music be socially conscious, so that you choose music that speaks to, not just the Black community, but music that has purpose. So that's what socially conscious karaoke is. And then we go into Saturday. Saturday morning, we start with the Believers Walk, which is it's Minister Troy Gandy heads that, but he's working closely with Hark, who is also one of our sponsors again this year, as well as the churches from the community, especially from the Jonathan Street community. We hope and pray that we can get more of them involved this year. They actually do a walk throughout the community, and it's the Believers Walk, and so they're singing and praising while they're walking, and they're praying for our community. It's well received in most neighborhoods that they walk through, and people come to look forward to it about as much as we used to come. We came to look forward to hearing the carolers on Christmas morning. I mean, it was 5 o'clock in the morning, but I missed that, living back in the old neighborhood, and Christmas rolls around and we don't hear that. So the Believers Walk actually unifies hope for our community. It's not a march, it's where people can actually come together and realize that sometimes it just takes getting back to our spiritual roots to understand how we navigate where we are today. So that happens, and then we're doing a health and wellness hour where we are offering, it's the group that's coming in, they're called the Floating Yogis. Someone else to Google, they're amazing. So we offer that. What I love about this organization, they're coming from Northern Virginia, but they don't leave out our disabled and senior population. So to anyone who is disabled or our senior population, we ask you to bring your lawn chairs and come and participate in the yoga that will be happening out there. They're also doing breathing. After that, it will be another segment of the health and wellness will also be, we're going to have a lecturer from the Washington County Health Department who is going to talk about childhood trauma. And we're bringing resources from throughout the community to be there in the event that someone needs someone to talk to. When we look at the increase of suicide in our country, we couldn't help but make this event something that makes a difference. And that's what Juneteenth truly is about. It's about making a difference. It's about celebrating people who survived, and also bringing together networks of resources for those people who sometimes feel disenfranchised, but even some of us who do not feel disenfranchised, we don't always know where to go to get assistance. So we are going to be offering that. And then we're going to, and this is why Miss Patricia Smart is here, she's going to tell you about our character fashion show, what it's actually called. The museum started it probably a decade or more ago. It's History Through Fashion, Character Fashion Show. We've dropped the history through fashion. What we realized at the Dolman Black Heritage Museum is that history is not always an easy sell. And so we have to make it interactive. We have to make it a little more fun for people. So the way we address that is through this program that we call History Through Fashion, Character Fashion Show. So I will turn it over to Ms. Smart for her to tell exactly what is going to be happening with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll say good evening to everyone. I'd like to share a flyer with you. I'll start passing it around this way. And that flyer is an invitation for all of you to consider joining us in the Character Fashion Show. It will be Saturday from 3 to 4:30. Yes, you'll be dressed in the regalia of a famous person, but it's actually a history lesson, as you said, Alicia. It's a fun way and an exciting way to introduce the history of African Americans in Hagerstown. So I'm really looking forward to it. You'll see some famous faces. You'll see some ordinary people. The little lady that in the picture in the top corner looks like she has on a nurse's outfit. She's actually the first black doctor in the United States. And then you'll see an abolitionist, Frederick Douglass. Some other folks I don't think are on there, but we have probably at this point about 20 characters that we've identified, but we're still pulling in more, and we'd like to have up to 30 people at least to come in the fashions of the 1850s through the Civil War era. And you can put a little twist on it if you'd like to with your costume, with a nod to the year 2023. So please come and join us, and we look forward to it.
Okay, and the whole premise behind that is the characters go around for that hour fielding questions from guests who are attending. And you ask these questions of every person, every character will have on a name tag that says, "Who am I?" You go up and you ask these people who they are. They will tell you everything about them. You know what? Our mayor was one of our characters one year. 3 years? Okay. And so the whole premise is you find the most obscure things about a character, and you learn those things so that when people ask you who you are, it's not so easy for them to get it. And so their identity is not revealed until the end, and that's the fashion show part about that. Now, it's not just limited to the African American community. We've had John Brown, we've had Abe Lincoln, we've had Susan B. Anthony, we had a young Hispanic lady who actually came as Hattie McDaniels and knocked it out the park. And so it's all about the character itself. So when you come, you're invited to the Juneteenth celebration as your character. You dress, and like she said, you can make it a nod to 2023. However, we want you to transcend that character to 2023, so that you are invited as your character, that you put on their persona, and you're invited to this event as them. So that's loads of fun. So and then of course, we round out the evening with live music. We are very grateful that Meritus is actually going to man our first aid station completely this year. So that makes me really happy, because in the years past, I just called in the nurses that were coming to my home to care for me, and they easily said yes. But understanding and knowing that there's more and more people in the community, businesses and all, that are understanding what the significance of this holiday. We still have the sign from the city that we made last year, and I would also like to know if, for your sponsorship, if you all would like an additional sign made, because I can have the other one delivered so that you all can hang it somewhere here in City Hall for this year, and we'll just put a new one in the plaza for you. And then I promise to stop. I won't be asking you every year for that, because then you'll have one that will stand the test of time. And if you keep it indoors, we don't have to worry about it fading. So that's my pitch. And I love smiles, but I love yeses more.
Guys, have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you for all your efforts for this.
Thank you.
For the, I think the broader effort of the importance of this event, the museum. I know that it is a tireless task, and so it does not go missed.
I appreciate you saying that. And the next time I'm crying in my pillow, I'll remember that you said that too. I didn't realize until I took this on how much I don't like the word no. I mean, coming from where I come from, you're used to no. But when you have put 22 years of your life into something and you're still getting no, it hurts. It hurts, especially when you know how vital this could be to our community. One of the things that saddens me most is when children come into the museum and don't realize that that's their family. You know, when we go into the school systems and they are unaware that that's your great uncle that did that great thing. That should not be, especially since this collection, the Dolman Family Collection, has been here since 1972. So,
Yeah, I
I'll
think-
remember the smiling faces when I'm crying.
Yeah, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, we were in Solomon's Island. And there's a museum down there to the heritage of, you know, the maritime activities of that community, you know, which has included in it, you know, a fairly rich African-American history as part of it. And so that museum was a really cool and inspiring
It
place for the
is.
kids
I've
to
been
see.
there.
For me, you know, I'm there and, you know, I think some of the things are neat, you know, I like old tools, but for the kids,
Yeah.
you know, the breadth of things that they find historically surprising is probably the best word, is a cool experience, and so.
And I want
Yes.
African-American history to be less of a surprise. That's all we're asking for, just make us less of a surprise and more for, especially for our young kids who we don't get these days. I think we don't get them because they don't get us, and they don't get us because they don't know what. I mean, we're not talking generations ago, we're talking my generation, to speaking to a young kid today. They're unaware that, yeah, when they had that riot in Hagerstown, I was sitting on my front porch. That's in my lifetime. So I think that I have no, forgive me, I'm not here just only complaining, because this administration has been, and the administrations past, have been very, very amenable to this museum being in Hagerstown, and we could not have gotten where we are today without all of you. However, it's still a difficult task. We have $23 million to raise, and you all cannot imagine how much it takes to do a Juneteenth celebration while you're still trying to write grants to get that word out. And just like that museum down at Solomon's Island, it made you appreciate that sunset all the more, didn't it? Because they have beautiful sunsets on Solomon Island. And you appreciate it more when you realize that there is this time capsule of a museum that tells you exactly what those maritime people actually went through. We understand as members of the Jonathan Street community even, that our survival, it transitioned on Jonathan Street. It wasn't always the historically black neighborhood. It transitioned into that. So therefore, there was commerce on Jonathan Street that supported our survival. And so when we get through that, I tell the story about my nurse that used to come into my home, and through conversation, we realized that her grandfather owned that corner store before it was the one on the opposite side, not Bunky's, but there was one on the corner where that Habitat House is. That used to be a store there, and her grandfather owned that. And, I mean, she is now a friend for life because she remembers that, but she didn't know that until she went into the Dolman Black Heritage Museum. She was able to connect those dots. So our history, there's only one history, but there's a voice within that history that has been silenced, and we just want it to be heard, so. I'll stop because I'll keep you here all day talking.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. And I have to say that attending those character, and I forget what they were exactly called, but Me and Journey did those together. And Journey was very shy and was in her 9th and 10th grade year of high school. but what it did was it helped her to have to research someone.
Oh, Shirley
And
Chisholm.
then she also had to talk to people, and so that was something that we still talk about to this day, of her first moments of talking. She was talking as Donda, which is Kanye's mom.
Yes,
She was
and then
talking
she
as,
was
you know,
Shirley Chisholm
Rosa
before.
Parks, and yeah, Shirley Chisholm, I'm sorry, I was Rosa Parks, yeah, yeah, so thank you for that, thank you for your leadership.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
We'll make a decision soon.
As soon as in,
That's up to the elected body. Would y'all like to have any more
let
questions?
me walk out of here with some hope, so I can contract these entertainers and get paid for the
You,
fence.
you guys.
I mean, I'm a yes, I don't.
Well, we're gonna have to find where that, the request is for 12-1,
Right.
and the event budget is already 1% over budget for the year. So,
Okay.
last year was, I think, 10. So, that's up to, 5 is the most we have given any event, Donut Drop, any of these, a couple other, Black History Month was 5. So it's, you know, it's up to you, but that 12 is gonna have to be found in this budget.
That's always the tricky part. We love to do all of it.
You're not doing all of it. That 12 is,
No, no,
yeah,
your ask, all of your ask.
yeah. Because that 12 is part of a, what is it, a $43,000 ask, that we're finding other
Yeah, I
places.
meant all of your ask,
Yeah.
not the full amount.
I would hate to have to try to find all this at this late date
Yeah.
anywhere else. I would
Very
hope,
late in the game.
yeah.
You
I-
did ask the county, Elizabeth?
Well, I'm going for them in 2 weeks, but last year they were in for 29,000, so I don't think that it's unreasonable. We've increased that by, I think, to 30 or 33, 32 something. So, and that, but I do understand that that's hotel retail tax, and of course, we will be utilizing the hotels for our,
That won't be where ours comes from.
no, I
Ours
understand
is
that you're
general
saying
fund,
it's
yeah.
gonna have to come from the budget, however, if, honestly, if you, ask me about those tax dollars that I pay, I'm all for putting it here. Because I do believe that in an era, in a time such as this that we are in, as a community, as a society, this is very important. And I can't tell you all enough. I understand, especially my dear friend Kristen, who loves the numbers. Sometimes the numbers is not a true reflection of what our society needs. And right now, if I could find a way to connect with the youth of our community, and this be one of those vehicles,
So if you're going to county in 2 weeks, you said? Can we at least have a week to try to see where we're gonna find this and come back and
Sure.
we can bring it to you?
I would appreciate that.
Okay.
please do that.
That's what we'll
Is
do.
that great?
There you go.
All right.
That'd be great.
Well, thank
See where
you.
we'll find
My
it.
heart says
Thank you.
yes.
And I can
Thank you.
appreciate your heart.
My heart doesn't give money. Well, I guess it does.
Well, I want you all to also think about the ramifications of every resident, especially every black resident in this community that will partake in this as something that, okay, let's face it, the history of it is that it took 2 years. The truth of the matter is, it's taken this country 99 years to even make this a federal holiday. This is a federal holiday, okay? And comparatively speaking, what is the budget for 4th of July versus what we're asking for? So keep that in mind when you make your decision, and thank you, guys.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Linda Ebersol. Okay. So next up, we have Hagerstown Baseball with David Blackstone, General Manager, along with Ms. Linda Ebersol, who's Downtown Baseball. President of Downtown Baseball. Did I get that right?
Downtown baseball, yes.
you doing?
I asked the mayor to have Linda and David here, just as a chance to, David was just introduced as general manager a couple weeks ago. And I know at least one of you here remember David from the old Hagerstown Suns days. And just a chance to have David introduce himself and perhaps have them both give you an update on where things are at with the ball stadium.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the opportunity. It's been a long time since I've been in this building too, in this seat. So I started as, I was announced as general manager at the end of April, so we're probably on about week 4 now. And so it's really just myself and Linda, and we're starting to fill the building. We have some temporary offices at the Herald Mail building currently, so we're using that space for now. We will start to put a staff together here shortly. We have a Name the Team contest that's going to start, I think, next week already. Being run through the Herald Mail, so people in the community will be able to submit names, nicknames for the team, obviously, which has not been named yet. We met with the 3 people from the Maryland Stadium Authority today just to get a quick stadium update. I think everybody wants to see this thing. I think everybody wants it to be tangible. And so we're hoping that we might be about a month away from seeing some renderings of the stadium. I feel, I'm coming in very late to the process, but I feel like we're starting to fine tune the final parts of the stadium design now. So hopefully it won't be too long before we have some renderings and some really concrete details that we can share with you and with the public at large. So.
I mean, this time next year, we're hoping to be able to play ball. The Maryland Stadium Authority says that we are on target for the build, even though it doesn't look like anything's going up out of the ground yet. That is coming soon, and so we're very excited about that.
It's a great project. It's amazing to be a part of it. Anybody who's been in the business like I was many years ago, this is a really exciting time for the team, but also for the downtown. It's a really game-changing project, so we're excited.
You guys have any questions?
Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
Any questions? Or-
Nice to meet you.
You as well, thank you.
Good to see you.
One thing coming up is the sale of the Herald Mail building. That's going up on auction next week. There's a walkthrough tomorrow, so our site, we may be moving out of there at some point, but for right now, we're certainly enjoying being able to sit there and look out and see
Like I
progress
said,
being made.
temporary offices in the Herald Mail building, so
Mhm.
hopefully temporary for the next 11 months, but we'll see.
That'll be interesting.
It will.
You guys, anything?
Nope.
No?
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for calling us again.
Thank you.
If anything comes up.
Appreciate it.
Next up, we have 2023 legislative session review, Senator Paul Quarterman and Delegate Brooke Grossman. Delegate, Senator.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Did you guys get new chairs?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're nice.
They don't go back as far. Still breaking them in.
You did have those old ones, didn't you? Don't even roll. I'm used to those, having coming back from the legislative session.
Yep.
Our chairs are 100 years old and don't roll on the carpet either.
So, go right ahead. You start.
Okay, we
Not
didn't
bad.
rehearse very well, so sorry.
No, we did.
So I'm going to cover just a couple of things, and then I'm sure the senator will pick up on some things that I missed. So I was given marching orders, right, from you guys when I went to Annapolis this year, mostly from Scott, but I assume you talked to him on the way. And one of those things was funding for the turf facility. And we were able to secure $3 million this year, which was not where we hoped to be. But we also, I'm sure you know, midway through budget planning, a shortfall was projected this year, so some of the things that we anticipated getting fully funded this session were not. But did already let the Appropriations Committee know that we will be back next year to start to fill that gap, so they are well aware of how important that project is here in the city. So that was an important one to me. Keeping the $100 million necessarily totally impact the city, but in the budget for the infrastructure of I-81 was also a really important one for anybody here that commutes or has a loved one that commutes in that stretch of road, getting that widened and just a better, safer highway was important. We also were able to restore, because in that budget shortfall, some of the monies that were coming into the new workforce center that HCC is bringing into the city were taken out, so we were able to get that back in there as well. One of the other big things, and it's a weird thing, it sounds like a small thing, but I know it's a big thing for us, is the tax sale amendments, right? And being able to get that legislation passed so that you guys can work more rapidly to pull back those properties. I didn't think I would come back from the session excited to say about something that didn't happen, but I did share this for those of you that were at the chamber event too. We were able to prevent the alterations to the enterprise zone program that were presented and actually presented in my committee from proceeding. Right, and spent a lot of time working with the delegate that had put that forward, who was from one of the larger counties in the state, helping them understand why that's so important, especially in the city here, and also to our friends kind of in southern Maryland who have not fully been able to take advantage like some of our larger counties have been. So those were big things that were important to me. Some statewide things that I do think that passed that will be meaningful here, especially in the city of Hagerstown, was the Family Prosperity Act, which is the expansion of, the long-term expansion of the earned income tax credit. So for a community where we have nearly a little over 25% of our population living, kind of at or below poverty, that expands that credit that was extended during COVID permanently. It is one of the kind of proven best tools to move children out of poverty, which is also lifting their parents up out of poverty, right? So that's a big one in my book. Passing the funding for the blueprint was also, I think, pretty significant, and adding into that some of the educator shortage work that we did, so that not only will there be loan forgiveness for teachers in the state of Maryland, but also social workers will be wrapped into that as well. So social workers who come and teach in our public school system will have access to some loans forgiveness too, and we know how vital, right, having them in our schools and the challenge that we have when there's a shortage of them right now. So I will stop. Those are some important things to me. I'm certainly sure there might be things that are important to you guys that I didn't cover, so I'm happy to get into that, but I also want to give the senator some time to share his thoughts.
Sure. And similar to the conversation we had at the chamber event for those that attended and those that did not, or people that may be listening, I kind of lead off almost all these talks the same as each session is very unique in and of itself. And this was, no different than any other. Big obvious thing this year was all the change. New governor, new lieutenant governor, new comptroller, pretty much a new treasurer, new delegates, new senators. Just locally, our own delegation, I mean, obviously we have a new delegate here in the city, but we had, Delegate Baker, Delegate Valentine renew, former Delegate McKay moved over to the Senate. So a lot of changes, not just statewide, but all the way down here locally. I'm on the Budget and Tax Committee in the Senate. Delegate Grossman is on Ways and Means, and I think to her point where she spoke about some of those things with the tax bill, she was very instrumental in helping that, because that bill went through both of our committees. Some of the subject matter are kind of sister committees. We have some of the same subject matter, so she was very helpful on the House side on that, as well as that last thing she spoke about with the enterprise zones. And we're gonna need your help again next year, because I think it's Polakovich Carr brings that back pretty much every year. Scott, you've seen it the last couple of years as well. So again, kudos to Delegate Grossman for helping hold the line on that end. Notable statewide issues, again, Delegate Grossman hit on some of them. One of the biggest statewide issues that I feel that really was not addressed, which comes all the way down locally and affects all jurisdictions, was crime. We see a lot of issues with crime, regardless if you're in a smaller municipality like ourselves or somewhere else in the county or one of the larger municipalities. And there wasn't a whole lot of really anything done to address crime per se on a statewide level. But I think regardless of politics, what side they're on, I think there was an appetite to do something, but it just didn't happen. So I think everyone is hopeful that something will happen here in the future, but we'll see. Saw a lot of social issues this time around. Like I said, we talked about guns, drugs, and abortion. So those were pretty much the biggest social issues you could talk about. And regardless of how you feel about those, the results are what they are. Cannabis, I know, will be a big one here locally, not just here in the city of Hagerstown, but within the county, and how that's gonna play out. The very end, I'm sure Scott has probably let you guys know that on MML fought for it as well. And again, let me take a minute and pause and thank Scott for all his participation. He's a tremendous asset to you guys. Obviously, you know that as an administrator, but he took a lot of time this year in Annapolis with Brooke and I and other people really advocating for the city. So thank you, Scott. And again to that end, on the cannabis, I know that he was instrumental in part of that, of getting part of that tax percentage, which will go back to the municipalities. But we'll see how all that shakes out. I think cannabis is going to be kind of like how alcohol is, where every year you're going to see some sort of change. And again, we're at the very beginning of that. I mean, they're still kind of working out the medical issues, medical licenses as we're getting ready to go on with recreational. We talked about some funding things. Again, the field house, there was a $2 million authorization from last year, which the governor was very kind enough to grant and fulfill that at the very beginning. And then by the work of Delegate Grossman and myself, we were able to get another $1 million added to that. The Robert Johnson Community Center, which I know is near and dear to a lot of folks, not only in this room, but in the community, received $2.5 million towards their efforts of renovations. The museum in City Park, obviously, they had a pre-authorization as well from last year that was honored. And the thing about the pre-authorizations, they're not guaranteed. So, I mean, we were very fortunate for the field house and the museum to be granted that. But for example, the town of Smithsburg had a $3 million pre-authorization from last year, and it was not granted. So just because you have a pre-authorization, it doesn't really mean anything until the budget comes out. And what I tell folks a lot of times, well, all the time, is keep in mind the budget is a living document. It gets presented by the governor, but then as it goes through the General Assembly, there's opportunities that things get added, deleted, changed, et cetera, through the House and the Senate. So it's never done until it's done. Out at Meredith, it was about $1.5 million that was granted to them for their medical school operations. And Delegate Grossman, you didn't even mention yours, but some of her efforts with the North High Track renovation, got $50,000 towards that. She and I had.
Because I don't run.
But all told, I think we did very well, as a team here for our local community. But what's most important is what you guys are looking for going forward, as well as obviously our shared constituents in our community. So I can only speak for myself, but I think I share that we're committed to continuing having dialogue, obviously, is during the interim of whatever you guys see as priorities, going forward over the next couple of months. As always, I think the tax sales are a beautiful example of collaboration. I know that, Scott, you and I started talking about it last summer when Delegate Grossman came on board. We sat right at this table, met about it in the fall, and it was a real collaborative effort and worked out really well with not only the things here locally, but also the collaboration from the city of Cumberland and the town of Frostburg, because they were heavily involved in it as well. And we're hopeful that legislation will provide, as they say all the time downstate, another tool in the toolbox to help address the blight concerns that we see all too often in our community. So that's kind of all that I had as well, but always open to any questions or anything else that you guys have at the moment.
Questions?
I don't have any questions. I think maybe three statements as it applies to your interest in what we'd like to convey. The first is thank you for protecting and expanding on the funding for the turf facility. I think that the simplest message that this body can convey as it applies to that project is we are committed to it happening. We probably did not get the level of response we had hoped for to date on the number of different avenues that we have explored obtaining additional partnering funding for, but I think that we feel confident that, and I think that our private partner feels confident at the end of the day that this facility will be a success for the city, that it will pay for itself, that it will pay dividends over time, and that it'll be a great attribute and attractant for youth and tourism-related activity. So I think on that subject, that's probably where we're at. And so, as you go back again next year, we hope to be in process, at that point of construction. So any additional help from the state would be great. I think the second issue is anybody that drives around this county obviously sees a different magnitude of economic development happening than we have seen before. Most notably, the huge warehouses that are now scattered, across the land with our position in the 70 and 81 corridor. And along with that comes people that need to work in them. And so, we have another subject, I think, on our agenda or coming up about allocation of our utility resources being sort of driven back more toward residential growth, because we're seeing that happen on the larger scale that we might have seen back in the early 2000s. I can think of off the top of my head 3 what I would call major housing developments that are likely to occur in and around the city. And we are clearly cognizant of the fact that they're going to have an impact on our high schools. I think that our elementary schools, I think that our middle schools likely have capacity to absorb a bit of that growth. But I do not believe that our high schools, namely those 2 in the city limits, north and south, are going to be able to absorb that over the next 5 years. And frankly speaking, I think that we likely have a board of county commissioners that may be hesitant to invest in that additional resource, but it is going to be an absolute necessity. And so I think in the next 2 years, whether they advocate or not, we're going to be advocating to some degree for state funding, as they typically do participate in school construction. And I just think that that's a thing on the horizon, no differently than how the county is embracing finally the necessity for paid manpower and facilities and fire and rescue. So to me, that's sort of like the 800-pound gorilla out there that we're about to talk about in the next 2 years. And then the last thing I would just convey is the proposal this year for the A&E tax reduction for the county. I don't think that this body has any concern for changes in that law applying to the county, but I think as a municipality, and I probably speak for the other municipalities as well, that does have a direct impact on our ability to create revenue to address exactly what you touched on, which is public safety. And the more tourism and public venue spaces that we have, and the basic fact is the city of Hagerstown, of the taxes that we collect, the property taxes that we collect, about 70% of all taxes we collect go to police and fire. Those are not going to decline with the increase in residential development, with the increase in commercial development, and certainly with the increase in tourism-related activity. And so, we're going to need that to be able to administer the adequate public safety services that we need to in this community, so.
I was going to add, and the senator touched on this, and thank you for your points to Councilman Alshire, but I think one of the other things I can speak for me only, but working on is getting the right folks to come out here and visit us in the interim too, so maybe even potentially I've had some conversation with the delegate that continues to put the enterprise zone bill in to say, come to Hagerstown and see why this is important here, right? We have the Secretary of DHCD coming out in a couple of weeks that is really not only to look at residential growth, but how we might be able to reinvest in some affordable. I know sometimes that's a dirty word, but just so that workforce that's working in warehouses can still afford to live in the city in nice, right, affordable homes. So coming out and looking at some of those things. And my hope is also, even with some other folks that are visiting this summer, touring the turf facility area and really helping them understand with their eyes and their ears, not just a letter and some advocacy on the floor, right? How important that project is to this city, so that when we go back next year, and I am standing in front of the chair of appropriations, he gets it, right? He's like, I get it, I understand it now. So I want to say that, it's not just those 90 days that we're down there, it's the other, whatever 365 minus 90 is, that's where most of the work probably happens, is to make sure that we have people coming here that are going to be part of that decision-making process down there, that really buy into what you guys are working to make happen here in the city.
Just a couple of things from my perspective. being on the MML Legislative Committee, looking at 400-plus bills over the year that dealt with municipalities. I think two-thirds of them that we voted to support were passed, which is pretty good. The one disappointment was police accountability boards having the ability to have municipal police accountability boards instead of them being county boards that then go out and, could or could not have representation from individual departments. We'll see here in the next couple months whether that becomes a priority again for MML to go after. The cannabis bill was of major concern when we heard that municipalities were being cut out, and it was just going to the counties, so we're very happy that some effort was made there towards the end. Senator Will Smith met with us on Thursday, and told us that was pretty hairy experience there towards the end of the night when it came to that legislation. So we appreciate being able to get some of that percentage coming directly to the municipalities. I think it turns into about an average of about $40,000 to $60,000 a year. Doesn't seem a lot, but it's better than zero. The tax sale bill is again, we had two in, we got the one through that dealt with cutting the time frame down in which municipality can go back and reclaim a property that was taken, but no action was done against it to foreclose upon that property. Also, the ability to hold back from tax sale any property that is deemed unsafe or condemned, that we could then look to have torn down or put into someone else's hands to do something with. So that was big. We'll go back and work with the
We
delegation.
know what our roadblock with the second
on-
one was, yeah, so we can work through
The
that.
second one was just the ability to send to tax sale those properties that may have current taxes but have accumulated abatements over years and are having nothing done to them except allowed to rot. Having those be able to go to auction and something done with, or go through the same process and have the municipality pull it back. That got a lot of interest last week down in the City Manager Association meeting. So I think we're gonna have a bunch of, hopefully that becomes an MML priority. That's something I'll advocate for this summer. But the other thing on the cannabis bill I thought was very interesting was, I know one of the topics that comes up here, and Councilman Alshire brings it out, is that, Maryland's passed these cannabis laws to legalize marijuana, but it's still a federal crime. It's a federal crime. And apparently we are very unique in the fact that the situation where you all say an oath to uphold the Constitution basically says cannabis is illegal. So that's conflict. And that was met with some interest in the association as to how to rectify that, or how to, I would say rectify, but how to make that come together and you can do one and do the other at the same time. So that was very interesting. And then, of course, the field house, you heard, as staff, we're committed to the field house. We're moving forward on it. But I think between the mayor and certainly myself, we'll continue to work through the summer and try to, talk to some folks to make sure, see if we can get some more funding coming this way. But whether we get it or not, it's going to happen. So we'll get there one way or another. We'd sure like to help, though.
Like I said, they know we're coming.
And thank you guys. I was in uncharted territory because, I had to get out and testify. I got to testify for the Senate. I didn't get to testify because we had council on that Tuesday, but it went down on Wednesday. And it's the first time I think there's been live testimony since COVID. And that was an experience, but it was fun to work with you all and with Frostburg and Cumberland. And I think we're gonna have a bunch more interest in being able to make changes there. So I appreciate all your help and guiding me through the process.
Yeah, and again, I think that was just a great example of just collaboration between not just the people in this room, but also the other communities, and be able to kind of have a plan set forward before, because a lot of times you'll see different things, and you've heard us talk about this before, where people will show up in January, February and say, hey, I have an idea for this or that, and at that point, it's just kind of too late. So we'll continue those conversations over the summer. As Delegate Grossman said, we have some ideas, I think, of how to hopefully push that thing forward and continue that conversation. Would like to respond to Councilmember Alshire a little bit. I think the field house speaks for itself. We all know where we are with that. 100% agree with you on school construction. I've been on the record publicly about that multiple times. I've had conversations with the county commissioners, had conversations with the school board. Absolutely, we cannot continue to just replace HVAC units and roofs and call that school construction. We're gonna need a high school in the east end of town. There's probably gonna be maybe even a second high school somewhere within the county close to the city of Hagerstown. So, I know the school board is committed to that, but obviously, as you know from your experience in the past, so that's a different situation when the commissioners and school board get together. And I think they met today, matter of fact, on some of their budget stuff, so I haven't had an opportunity to go back and look at that. But no, I will continue. Don't want to speak for Delegate Grossman, but I have already started to champion that concern last fall, and we'll continue to do that. So I do agree with you on that and look forward to working with you on that. The last thing, the A&E bill, that's a continued, discussion. We'll have some continued, I'm sure, dialogue, in interim. I think there's opportunities there. I don't think it has to be an all or nothing deal, so to speak. But I think that's, not a subject to debate here today, but I think an opportunity for discussion going forward. But I look forward to having that conversation.
I just want to say that I appreciated hearing the collaboration. And I think that if we do that and build on the common ground in these municipalities across and what did you say, Cumberland as well, work with this? Yeah, I think that if we build on common ground at Western Maryland, could be great versus us always trying to figure out who's responsible for different things and be in so much conflict. So I just appreciated hearing the collaboration and being able to work with other municipalities to get something done for this area. So thank you for your leadership on that.
And I apologize, Madam Mayor. She came down, you were appointed to, what was the board you got appointed to? Because she came down to the
Yeah.
Executive Nominations Committee one evening, and I had the pleasure of introducing herself to the committee, and they confirmed her nomination, so congratulations again on that.
Thank you. Affordable Housing Board of Trustees.
That's it. Yep. So,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am, appreciate your service there.
Thank you. All right, you guys good? Looks like we're good. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you both for your leadership.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, all right. Okay. So next up, we have the Beacon House Child Care in Hagerstown, Washington County. We have Tony Williams, CEO, along with Bailey Kershaw, who's the board president, Peyton DeGrange, am I saying that right? Little Steamers Director, and Sean Hess, Steam Works Director. Welcome. And you might have to,
Yeah, you can
yeah, you can grab this one too if you need to, Tony. It's holding her budget book.
Well, hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, whatever you want to call this time of day. It's the weird hour of the day, right?
Feels like night.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pass these. Yeah. So we have some folders here of some information, but first of all, I want to say thank you all for taking the time to listen to us. I know you have a busy schedule. You have a lot going on. You have a lot of things that are presented before you. But it was great to go after the Delegate Grossman and Senator Quarterman, because they talked about a lot of things that are changing and growing in Hagerstown, and that's why we're here. You were talking about schools, but outside of schools, kids spend many hours in childcare. And here in the city and here in the county, we do not have a lot of childcare, and you'll see information here on the one pocket and left side, just talks about our program and what we do. We offer licensed childcare from ages 6 weeks all the way up to middle school, the end of middle school, so 15 years old. And Peyton will talk a little bit about the need and what she's getting every day, phone call wise, and what we can't do based upon our current capacity, which is enroll more kids. We are at the brim of where we are with our 2 locations and what we're doing. And you see everything that we offer before and after care with transportation, we do all that kind of stuff, food, things like that. But behind that, you'll see an article about what's going on in the state of Maryland. There are basically deserts of childcare. People who are looking for childcare cannot find childcare, and a lot of you have kids or grandkids, and know it is hard to find spots. We have people who are, before the kid is even born, looking for childcare, because it's that hard to find. And Hagerstown is not any different. It is horrible to find childcare, and right now, currently, we can only take 3 under the age of 1 in our locations. And our 2 locations are close to those new wonderful construction sites that are going to be happening here in the next couple weeks. One is downtown on Washington Street near the stadium construction project. The other one is right across the street from the Fieldhouse construction project. So we would like to move as quickly as possible so those things can go up without damaging our child care facilities as well. One great thing behind that article is that most people within the city of Hagerstown that are working, those Alice families, asset limited, income constrained, employed, that are going to jobs that are being created here at the warehouses, the factories, whatever we have coming in for workforce and economic development, they qualify for vouchers through the state of Maryland. Our former Governor Hogan did a great thing his last year here, pushing through that these income levels for families be increased, that those families can actually afford childcare by being paid for by state through the Child Care Scholarship. And that's what you see there. I just want to make sure that you're well informed. Behind that is information about childcare, where we stand on our childcare prices compared to others, and where most people are spending money through the state of Maryland, Washington County, and Hagerstown in childcare prices as well. We aren't here just to tell you about childcare, we're here to talk about money. On the other side, you'll see the property that we're looking at. We're looking at the former, currently still, the ABC, or Associated Builders and Contractors building. It was a school, it was the Broadway School way back. If you don't know the history of that building, it was the first free and reduced meal site in the entire country. So we want to take it back into educational use for kids. Right now, it's educational use for more adults, but that requires money. If we know anything, it needs sprinklers, and there's a budget in there. It shows you really what we need ASAP to get us in there. We have an investor who's really willing to purchase the building forthright for us, and then we rent it as we're waiting for Congressman Trone's community project funding to come through. He has a bill already introduced for $2.5 million. We can't do any of that spending until the bill is actually approved, and then we actually have the money coming to us, so we need an investor to buy it. We have that, but we can't actually use the building unless we have that $358,000 ready to go to do the work. We have the contractors ready to go, we just need the money. And if we can get in this summer, get the work done, we can open this fall, and we can increase our enrollment by 2 or 3 times in the next couple of years. Like in a year or 2, finding staffing, training, we work with WCPS for the apprenticeship program. We work with HCC a lot as well, trying to find the workforce to come in. We're looking at expanding that 0 to 2 from what we now currently has 12 kids to probably about 30 to 40 kids. And that will greatly help Hagerstown and Washington County. If you know anything about the little kids especially, there's no care, and that will help increase that care for our kids in the area. Also looking at public free pre-K for ages 3 and 4. We're working on that grant as well, so we will be a pre-K site. Right now, talking with WCPS, who is a wonderful partner of ours, they don't have enough spots for pre-K, for public pre-K in Washington County. This building solves a lot of issues for bringing up kids in a safe environment that have loving support of our staff. All our staff are trained. We are working more with achievement and behavioral supports, looking at safe crisis management, a way to de-escalate kids and train them. So we're really looking at ways to bring in more therapeutic and behavioral supports in our programs. So we're really meeting all the needs of our kids here in Washington County and Hagerstown specifically. The majority of our kids come from the schools within Hagerstown city limits. So I'll shut up a little bit and let Peyton and Sean and Bailey, our board president, talk a little bit too.
So with childcare, I know he had stated, I do have currently a wait list for both buildings. To give you kind of a idea, our Cleveland Avenue building, its capacity is 31 children in total from ages 6 weeks to 4 years old. I have 30 children on that list as a wait list. I can double the building size just by making phone calls because those parents are ready. 2-year-olds are a huge issue. There is no space for them. I had families pay, right after they got pregnant and waited. I mean, can you imagine getting pregnant and then having to get childcare right away? You still have 9 months. Anything can happen in that time, but that's how long it takes for you to get your name pulled off that wait list. And even then, it can still take time. We offer these families 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks. So everything is completely taken care of. We offer services to a lot of families that are on that low income side. I sit side by side with them and fill out those voucher applications. I help them get everything they need, pay stubs. I've driven families places to be able to pick up birth certificates and things that they need because they just don't have it. There's a lot of families who don't have the documents they need. They have no idea how to even get on the computer to apply for these things. And our centers help that. Sean and I have both sat down with multiple people to do that. Some of these families, we send food home with them because they just don't have, the right resources at their fingertips to be able to purchase that. And this is gonna, if we can get the money to get this building as soon as possible and get things rolling, we can expand that to so many people in Washington County that it's gonna help a great deal. There's developments being built everywhere. We talked about there's warehouses. My personal family, my husband works in one of those warehouses. There are plenty of people in there who are coming in and out because they can't get stable childcare. Because they're going to places like, in-home daycares that are unstable. They need that stable center that has a license, that has the staff, that is going to be open every single day, no matter what. I work with a lot of different places. I actually have apprentices from Frederick County now coming to us and applying and driving, all the way from Frederick just to come and help our center out, even if it's just for a few hours, to get some of their hours in for high school or college. We help in so many different ways that these families are blessed when they come and can get everything. It's like a one-stop shop.
Community partners, like one's in the room right now, Potomac Case Management, we get emails from their workers all the time asking about spots and things like that. United Way, helping with the Micah's backpack, getting the kids on who aren't on, helping donate things. We are working here in the city all the time, like all the elementary schools, except for right on the outskirts. Paramount is the only one that we don't really work with right now, but we're at Fountaindale, it keeps expanding. Salem Avenue keeps expanding the need. We get phone calls all the time. Ramps and Eastern, Bester, all those schools, McKay Dow, we have those kids being transported to our centers every day, and we offer summer camp, and we are blessed always getting money from the city in the last couple of years for summer camp as well. But we're talking about the need is great for a place for those kids to go that's safe, that can provide everything for them that they need. And that's what we're hoping to do, and to continue expanding a program there with the resources, hopefully from the city, county, and state. We've applied for other ones this spring. As the senator and delegate said, a lot of things weren't funded. We didn't get funding for our bill from them, but we are hopeful with the congressman that we will get the money to do the big renovations. We just need the money to get in the door.
Is your ask from the city some portion of this $358,000?
Whatever you guys can afford in your budget, we just know that we are going to the county as well. We're hoping for the city and the county to come through where possibly the state didn't come through at the beginning, so that we can get in the door, and the federal government will help us buy the building and then do the big renovations of the elevator, things like that, to make it accommodating.
But the ask is not for operating funds, it's for.
It's for the actual construction fund.
Renovations.
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys, go ahead.
So, I guess for me, having been, that's the wrong word. As a parent of 5 kids, we paid to go through various childcare providers, both private and commercial over that course of time. I guess for me, I'd want to understand, so I think of, what's the White Tiger, right?
West Virginia.
Yeah. So I think of that, I don't know, at the YMCA. I guess my question sitting here from this seat is, with due respect, it seems like a business, right?
Yeah, you guys a nonprofit?
We are a nonprofit.
But you charge for
But
child
understanding
care
nonprofits. Nonprofits don't mean no money. Nonprofit is a
I
tax
understand.
status,
And I guess
right?
that's what I'm trying to figure out is, there are probably a broad range of childcare, daycare providers, both before and after school, both, the limited under 2, and then, for me, I'm trying to figure out how,
The model is
I
different on
would-
our revenue stream.
how I would feel like I'm not picking and choosing.
You're not picking and choosing in the aspect of, you're not saying one program is better than another to give the
No,
money.
but if I'm funding yours, to me, and I think that maybe the best example is when various groups have come in recently for the ARPA funding for, other services, like the proposal that you have, I'm completely fine in vetting that proposal within our budget if that capability allows for it. But to me, it would have to be, hey, as the city of Hagerstown, as the responsible purveyors of the public's funds, it would have to be open to whatever entity out there that provides this service to come in and compete.
I don't understand how it's.
For
any
that
different
available
than
funding.
What the state and federal government does with the aspects of, we have the opportunity to apply and ask for money from them.
Yeah.
And every organization has the same obligation to, if they need money and are asking the city or the county, they have the same obligation to contact the city and the county to ask for funding
Right.
as well, which is open at all times, correct?
Right, so if the city's gonna get into the business of providing construction funding to meet the needs of, the provision of daycare, to me, that would have to be an RFP that goes out and says, hey, we're gonna provide $250,000 of funding, to meet this need within the community, and any entity out there can have the opportunity to equally apply for that available funding.
I understand part of your point, but my point doesn't make sense when everything is always open to ask for information from the city, state, county, because it's open access.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're saying all your funds for ARPA were always open up to RFP,
No, basically what he's saying is, as this elected body, the same thing that he said, anytime someone came and asked for a substantial large amount of money, is that he'd like to see entities be able to come in, ask for it, because this is gonna be $250,000 that will be for childcare. And so YMCA, Beacon House, and whoever provides childcare can then submit their request in.
Yeah, my-
There's not really a process like that, and I think that's,
he would like a more streamlined process.
It looks
My
fair.
concern is if we provide this, and I don't deny the needs out there, at all. I think I've been saying that for years, there's a shortage, but 2 weeks from now, the YMCA could clearly say, well, wait a second, we would have doubled our operations if we'd have known this public funding was available to meet this need that you've identified as a city within the community. And I guess that's my point, is there will be a host of other entities that provide this comparable service that are going to say, or have the justifiable opportunity and right to say that thing, and I have to look at them and say, this is why we made this unilateral decision to pick this specific entity without vetting that in a fair manner to those entities in the community that provide this particular service.
And I would say that you're always gonna have that no matter what entity it is, whether it's a sports stadium or whatever.
I agree.
There's always gonna be that no matter what. But I think as a political official, you have to know the need and the urgency in your community and figuring out what is the best use of the money that was allocated to you, and that's why you were elected to these positions.
that's exactly what he's saying.
Yeah.
That's all he's
Yeah.
saying. He's
Yeah.
saying, as him sitting there, as a member of this elected body, he wants to make a fair decision based on all of, whether it's the United Way asking for a specific, Goodwill asking for a large amount. He's saying, bring all of those to the elected body and let us properly go through versus coming in and them making a decision right now based off of that amount of money with ARPA funds. He's saying exactly what you're
Yeah,
thinking.
Yeah, I have no problem saying, okay, we're gonna identify $250,000 in our budget. I'm just gonna use this number, I know Michelle, she's back there.
She's fine.
I know. All I'm saying is,
She's not crying.
I'm using this hypothetical. If we were as a body to agree that we were gonna set aside $250,000 toward this particular purpose, whether it's in our general fund or ARPA, because this would qualify under ARPA funding, if we were to do that, to me, the fairest way to say is we've set aside this money for this identified purpose. You have until X date to submit your proposal for receipt of those funds. And in that 45-day period, yourselves, along with whichever other entity out there would like to do so, could submit those proposals. This body would vet those proposals in that fair manner, and then we would make a decision that we feel is that most effectively meets, you know, our objective.
We were actually approached by Brooks House a couple of weeks ago, and the same basic,
Guidelines,
Right,
thing, yeah.
right, like, there's a need,
Mhm.
right? And Brooks House came to us and asked us for a large sum of money, and we're doing the same, we.
Identifying and
Right.
doing guidelines and
Right,
everything.
exactly. So I think that that's kind of the transparency that we're looking for in this local.
Body, yeah.
Yes.
And there's no doubt there's a need.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I would say what's different is what we're talking about with the actual supports that are in place in our program, the de-escalation, the focus on behavior. We're talking about kids that have been kicked out of other programs because they're not the right kid for their program. And you're talking about other providers that they're coming from because we have kids on the ASD spectrum that most people don't want to work with. I think they just find it challenging. We have kids that have multitude of diagnoses, and we're working with those, and that's why we're really focused on achievement and also behavioral supports and bringing in our two deans that have 20 years of combined work with kids with different needs.
I do think that your program is unique to other childcare organizations that at least I'm familiar with, so, and I appreciate that insight there.
And Peyton and Sean can attest that you have many families coming at their last, wits end, trying to find
Yes.
childcare because they
That
can't
sounds
go anywhere else.
Exasperating, I
Well,
can't
with
imagine.
kids with special needs especially. So.
I have to say that the same year I got elected, I got 3 brand-new grandkids. And so, two turned 2 in March, and one is getting ready to turn 2 in August. And for all of my daughters, 2 of them that work for Amazon, and the other one just, she's with the state, childcare has been almost impossible. And so I do understand the need as well. I just think that the elected body wants to.
Have the guidelines, have make it.
Yes.
I like the fact that you have narrowed your request to startup.
Yep,
Meaning you're not asking us to help you operate and run your business. You're saying.
we do not
we
need that
could-
help.
We could double the size of our provision, because, and I say this all the time, and I don't care whether it's residential or commercial or institutional, meaning, quasi-public construction. Our objective as this body with the public's funds, if we're going to devote them to those community efforts, should be to invest in the infrastructure, meaning the building itself.
And not
And not in the
sustainability.
operations. And so I like that you've brought that request in that manner, because if we are to proceed down this road, and provide this out there, if there's even the opportunity or ability to do so, in any manner, that we would gear it toward that narrow scope of saying, tell us what you need to make the building better, with all due respect, so if you fail, I've still invested in creating a better building.
And a better building
For the
that's usable for anyone
An
else that
asset
would
to the
come.
community.
Tony, does this meet the standards or qualifications of any of the Invest Hagerstown grants?
That I do not, because we're a nonprofit, and a lot of those things that the city has identified as for business, correct.
Wow.
I tried.
I know, that's the door of the nonprofits in most of the community. They knock on the door and the door's closed to only the for-profit community.
Got you.
Yeah.
Forgot about that very important part.
You guys have anything else?
I would just like to say, a lot of the legwork's been done here, and our seller really does believe in the mission of our organization and what we're doing. It's a matter of fact, I feel like every phone call we have with them, we have nothing but bad news, and they're just like, well, let's see how we can work this out. Let's work with you guys. So they've been really, really great about it. But furthermore, I'd like to invite all of you guys personally, if you haven't been invited yet, we're doing a walkthrough on Monday evening from 6 to 8 at our actual facility. So we were initially going to do it at the Locust Street School to demonstrate how we would use the facility, and then we felt it best to show kind of the lack of facility that we're dealing with right now. So there's your personal invite from us here.
6 to 8 p.m., 20 West Washington Street.
It works for the Boys and Girls Club, it worked for you guys, you know? Or in the
Great food from
dilapidated facility.
Pretzel and Pizza afterwards.
Yeah, we just covered.
We
so.
try to do local as much as possible. You can see our contractors are all Washington County contractors. We want to make sure that we are investing in our community because they've invested in us, so.
Time did you say that walkthrough was building?
6 p.m. start.
And come out, see what your money for summer camp as well. Come out anytime. You all are welcome.
You guys good?
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you guys for your time and leadership. Oh, we're gonna, up on the agenda, we're gonna do the skate park security next with Eric Feige, Director of Public Works. Is that cool? It is freezing. It's freezing. We're cold. My toes are cold.
Feels good.
Michelle.
You got one?
And Aaron has sleeves on, so he's the only one with sleeves on.
Sorry, the chair. She has a sweater on.
Chilly?
My toes are cold, everything's
You arrived just in time. I'm good. I think it's coming.
Yeah, I think it's good in here.
Well, I'm sure of the heat.
The heat's off until winter.
So there was concerns about the security of the skate park. And so staff and Scott and some of these fine gentlemen met at a skate park recently, concerned about the security. We have on the screen up here a shot of the skate park facing east. What's not shown is basically where we're standing would be a pavilion, and off to the right would be some playground equipment. But basically, that's a shot of the skate park there. I'll let these guys introduce themselves.
Sure, so we represent, Chip told us in the community meetings, Ryan and I were both committee members for the task force that started the skate park, proposed it, raised the funding, those kinds of things, helped organize and community feedback and select contractors and things. I'll let you kind of explain your role in the, I was the chairman for the committee.
Sure, yeah, so I was pretty much the person who knew did the most skateboarding. I traveled to, I've been to over 100 different skate parks, and I did a lot of the legwork on, different contractors' proposals and what decision was best. And ever since it's been open, I've only missed 3 days. I've been there almost every single day.
Includes
Whether I'm
rain,
sick, whether it's
ice.
raining and snowing, hurt, it's really important to me to be there every day. So I know a lot of the people. I've seen a lot of these things firsthand. If I haven't seen it firsthand, I definitely heard about it right after. So.
Yeah. Chip, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm late to this party. If there's something having to do with the skate park or the community or something like that, I'd really like to be involved. So
Yeah.
I'm helping with the skate lessons because the kids are the future.
Chip should have been a committee member. We kind of like the one that got away with that. He's been helping Ryan and myself teach skateboard lessons through the Parks and Rec system on Saturdays to local kids. Chip's great with kids, and a lot of the local skateboarders already know him. And when we were kind of like building community and culture around the local skaters, everybody already knew Chip and respected him. So we want him to kind of like represent some of that with us today. I also should disclose I have like a kind of dual relationship with the skate park, and I'm kind of shifting more into what I think is my primary role. There's not really a committee anymore. We have a skate park. We're really grateful. It's just really fancy park equipment now. It's like another playground to me. But around the same time we finished this project, I started a new one with my real job with Potomac Case Management Services, or what's now Potomac Community Services. We got funding in the county for a juvenile diversion grant. And obviously there is a lot of crime concerns across the country, in the state, and significantly high levels raising with children. There's legislative change that has prevented like traditional judicial involvement with children, traditional like police interventions. That's for a really good reason. But it's left communities really unsure with what their options are when there are like youth behaviors that demand responses. The majority of what we're concerned about at the skate park, I think, has to do with that.
Yeah,
the change with that stuff.
Right, to be clear, it's not with the skaters. The skaters have their culture, and they do, for the most part, they've been great. They've been very respectful of the equipment and the property. It's others in the area that have come in and disrupted the area. And so there's been talk by a number of people about other security measures, whether it's a fence that's either partially around it or all around it. And so that's what the discussion is about, is the mayor and council to talk about that and decide if anything needs to be done, should be done, or what we can do to move forward in that direction. I will say lately, it's been pretty quiet out there. There hasn't been much, I'll say interference to the skaters. They seem to be, or the bikers, they've been enjoying the park. There hasn't been a lot of real problems at the moment.
I wonder if that's in any association with the drones that have been.
We suspect that.
deployed.
I think it's directly.
I
actually,
think
yeah.
it makes sense to me as to
Yeah.
the.
A lot of the things that the
Nice.
drones were targeting were the same activities that were occurring around the skate park. And I want to distinguish too, I really appreciate Erica distinguishing that it's not necessarily park users. And not all park users are skaters. Some of them are using wheelchairs, or children are using like small bicycles, or, you know, learning to rollerblade and things like that. It's not just for, you know, washed up 30-year-old skateboarders.
Is it because I said drones? Is that why you're like,
Well,
hold
he's- yes,
on?
he's-
Yeah, so
Hold on.
I'm glad Chief Piper's here, because I really think it is like, it's been an ongoing conversation with police and the city and Parks and Rec. I think that there's, you know, a lot of changing dynamics with how we interact with youth during behaviors and activities like this. And I hope you can speak to the drones. We suspect, just from like reading recent reports and the kinds of things drones are helping with, that that's making a real impact in the activity we're seeing here.
Yeah, and I agree, I think the drones are an impact, but I also think that we've arrested a few juveniles here recently that are actually being detained, that were the ringleaders in the general community and specifically at the fairgrounds. And they've been detained for the last week plus, and we've noticed just in that time frame that the temperature in the whole community has really dropped off. So, you know, moving forward is gonna be identifying who these leaders are of this activity and focusing on them and making sure we can stop that activity from them. It seems to diminish the rest of it. So drones actually caught those two as well, so that's, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really grateful, because in the past, when I've asked what the holdup is or what the difficulty is connecting youth to services, which is the alternative to kind of like the traditional law enforcement interaction that would send them through the probation and court system. Now they can get case management, support with their family needs, you know, live life with a meaningful adult, like invested in daily or regularly. To be fair, like the police have tried to identify the youth that would be good for that, and it was really hard to just identify them. I think drones will help a lot with that. I would also propose, we were approached by the mall recently, the diversion program, probation, and social services. They had a serious problem being able to identify youth because they just like gave false information about their identification, their parents' contacts, and things like that. The proposal, which is too fresh to kind of know whether or not it will work, is that while they have some footage, like taking pictures of incidents and things like that, and we have, you know, 6 cameras at the park as well that donations pay for, that we would use that footage to send to SROs or school social workers or counselors and people like that, and submit it for identifying youth that need contact and support. I think largely, when you look at this, it might be really frustrating when a kid is like, you know, trying to take someone else's skateboard or scooter or something like that. But we recognize as adults who invest in this community that there's a much bigger problem going on. And not only are the parents not present, I think it's pretty unlikely they're aware of where the children are. Yeah, so we would propose that there's maybe, and I think it takes a lot of effort to identify those youth. I would just compare that to the amount of effort to continue to address the same behaviors of the same kids over and over again. So I think identification is like a big part of this. And personally, I would turn the focus to that as opposed to a fence, which I think might have made sense at the time to create a physical barrier when you're concerned about vehicles and things, but may actually be a Band-Aid solution.
With that being said, I appreciate the fact that I think we had a pretty honest and frank conversation out at the skate park that day, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate your all's passion. I think there are, in my opinion, there is at least one thing, and it was kind of proven to us when we were standing out there having the conversation, when the, you know, my initial proposal, and I've seen it happen, is the kids up in that pavilion taking the bikes and basically using that as a hill to launch into the skate park. And the kid came up and said, oh, that apparently heard us talking, said, oh, you can't do that, that's, you know, that's the only thing I like to do. The one I witnessed was, probably the kid couldn't have been any more than 4 or 5 on a scooter with their dad on that up and down part there, I don't know what you call that, part right there in the bottom part of the screen. And one of those kids did that and launched in there, and if the dad hadn't grabbed his kid, it had taken that kid out and probably hurt him pretty bad. If there is a way to make that not be able to happen and launch down that hill, whether it be with some decorative stone or something, that we had talked about some options to do that, I think that in itself would at least help from a, you know, not necessarily security, but, you know, a safety.
Yeah, more of a
way,
safety.
more of a
sound,
safety
yeah.
issue there.
Yeah.
To be able to take that temptation away for kids to do that. I will also say, and I completely 100% agree, that these aren't skaters and people out there that are using the skate park in the way it should be used, that are causing these issues, because these issues are happening at the skate park, they're happening at the concession stand, they're happening up at the grandstand building, and what we've done with the drones and what we've done with getting a little bit more aggressive in identifying some of the ringleaders, basically, of what is going on, it is making a difference. And I know I've heard from several people, and again, I hate to talk about last week, but at the City Managers Association meeting last week, I had someone come up and ask me from in DC area about the skate park, because they've heard about it, and they're looking to do something in their community, and this was the example they were given as to what a skate park should be. And so it definitely, it's an amenity that should not be tainted by some of these knuckleheads that think they can go out there and do what they wish, and we're showing that we're not gonna allow that to happen anymore. But there are still, I think, some areas of improvement that we can work on that will make it even more safe for, especially the little guys that go out there. And that are learning how to ride the scooter, or learning how to skate. That I think will go a long way to improving this without necessarily the need to have a fence. I can tell you, if the shenanigans would have continued, you know, like what we were having out there with our equipment getting vandalized and with people getting hurt and all of that, I would have certainly not had a problem recommending to the body to fence the place in, or just as a way to protect the asset. But I'm not to that point. I'm not even close to that point right now. But I do think there are ways that we can make that even safer around that edge, especially that edge there where the pavilion is, up towards where the outdoor rink is, to make things a little safer and still make it look nice and inviting, and still be a park aesthetic there.
Scott, we got a couple architects on retainer, basically.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
work with them and come up with some proposals,
Yeah.
some ideas to see what we could do there and bring it back to council.
Yeah, well, we didn't want to do that until you all had a chance, because I know we've had that discussion here, and we wanted you all to be able to hear how things have gone since we had that discussion, and then if you all are okay with us moving forward with that, we like to do whatever we could to keep this a very nice amenity, because it's one of the best, if not the best, skate park in a wide area. And we're hearing about it.
And just like this conversation, and I appreciate you involving the former skate task force, that when the architecture, when it is presented, that they are also included, so
Yeah.
that skaters, really get somewhat of a say in,
If that's the direction, sure,
yeah.
absolutely.
That's what I was gonna ask them. Are you Roy or Ryan?
Ryan.
You're Ryan?
Yes.
Is your brother Roy?
Yes.
I know Roy. And I met your grandmother, I believe.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask out of all the parks that you've been to, you know, you've been to a lot.
Yeah.
But is that something that has been done where they put safety measures in, and do you see that at other parks?
Sure. So, 20, 25 years ago, the standard was pretty much you find a old tennis court and it's already got the fence and you put it up, that sort of thing. But of all the parks in Maryland that have been built in the last 10 years, they're all either no fence or just small partial fences. Most of them are more decorative. Some of them are right on the side of the road, like a main highway. So it's that sort of a deterrent. But generally, they are wide open. We did a great job altogether coming up with this because, as you said, people in DC, but we had a professional skateboarder from New Zealand over the weekend who came to come and skate there. So people are driving.
It's not as uncommon as people think.
Yeah, I know of at least 3 people who drove 5 hours one way to come and skate at our skate park, just because of how all the details are right. And it's not always the case.
Thank you.
So, I think when we construct these things, especially in our parks, the city has 2 objectives, right? The first objective is to protect its investment, right? And the second objective is to ensure the positive experience of the patron. And I feel like we're revisiting this about every 4 months in its very short life cycle so far on those 2 issues. And in the interim, it gets a little bad and then it gets good and then it's like, okay, it's not that bad, and then it gets bad, right, and then it gets good. And we just keep that cycle going. And both of those things suffer. The experience of the patron and the protection of the public investment. And the only reason that it appears that that experience doesn't suffer to the degree that it otherwise would be is because we are investing a measurable amount of manpower into curbing that. And I don't mind revisiting it in another 4 months and another 4 months from that and then 4 months after that until we decide that we're spending a lot of time and energy protecting the public investment and ensuring the positive patron experience. It's odd to me that when I go to any park we have and I drive past City Park, right, and just in the last 2 months, right, we put up a nice big long decorative fence along City Park to protect that public investment and to ensure a positive experience of the patron. No differently than we do for the dog park or the softball fields or a host of any other amenities that we have. And I agree, I don't think that the purpose at any point in this conversation about some type of fence has been anything but protecting that public investment, i.e. not allowing motorized vehicles access to it, which they clearly have and are clearly continuing to use and will continue to use. And 2, ensuring that positive experience by not allowing those unsafe conditions to continue to happen. And for me, I think at minimum, there has to be some decorative, I don't care what you could call it, a fence, a hedgerow, a line of trees, whatever it is that accomplishes those 2 goals should happen. When you look at this drawing or this picture, clearly, you don't need that in the front. But clearly, there are individuals accessing what I'll call the grass area in a manner that isn't conducive to either of those objectives. So whether we talk about it now, whether we talk about it 4 months from now, or 6 or 8 months after that, we're going to reach that conclusion at some point, because we're going to look at the manpower, our investment we're making to curb something that isn't otherwise, without those improvements, going to be curbed.
We talked about the dirt bikes for years, and we are finally seeing improvement,
We are.
right?
They'll still exist. They'll still be out.
They will,
They'll
but
still
we are.
ride across there.
That's right, but we are finally seeing something better. So I think that the next step for the skate park is to do what Scott suggested, is maybe there's safety measures that can deter whether it's rocks or hedges
Yeah,
or
big rocks that
something.
kids can run into and hit and land on are not, in my mind, a good liability investment.
Well, we're not architects, so whatever the architect comes back with, maybe it's something that we can, we agree that is a deterrent for motorized vehicles to go through.
Oh, I agree. I think the same things we use on our softball fields and other amenities are that solution.
I think that when you bring up the two areas of, like the resources, protecting the investment and the patron's interest, I would say that we would have to hear what the patron's interest is and whether or not they're pro-barrier. And I don't know like what the typical way of doing that is, but we spend a lot of time with the patrons and our patrons, and we have a lot of concerns about physical barriers. We
They're
don't-
not footing the bill.
Sure.
Some of them probably are.
I would say we did foot quite a lot of the bill, and did almost all the effort of establishing what the bill was. But I would also say, when we look at like the amount of resources, like Chief Kiefer and things are putting into it, I don't think that this is gonna dissolve juvenile crime like a barrier would necessarily do that. They're still gonna have to put resources into it, maybe in like multiple locations.
You keep using the word barrier.
Sure.
I'm confused by the use of the word barrier to access to this public amenity.
Okay.
It's not a barrier. No one is barring a patron from getting in and using that amenity in an appropriate manner.
I guess we'd have to talk about what we're
I mean,
describing.
it's not a barrier.
What's the word you're gonna use?
What do you mean?
What are we putting in place?
I think some type of protective fencing.
That's kind of the barrier. So the one thing that I
A
want
barrier to what?
From the problem is 9 out of 10 times, the kids are ripping up on the dirt bikes through here. 1 out of those times they come here. We're not doing anything to stop this, but you're gonna cut people off from the swings that are over here to the pump track. We put a stop to the people who throw the scooters down into the pump track to cause problems. The people who want to use the place, we put a stop to this. We go out there and we put ourselves on the limb because we know these kids aren't gonna listen to anybody, and we're just getting them to stop. Like, we don't get any respect, we get badmouthed, we get our cars, like, did we get rocks thrown at our cars just for this? But the thing is these kids, they're only, so a lot of the stuff has stopped because the cops took the BMX bikes. They used to sit there in that little grassy area and just watch them go up and down the street. Now, those kids are just standing in the way, and they're gonna get hit by people on bikes and scooters and stuff like that, and we all try and be nice and be like, hey, watch out, this is where we're skating. But they're watching the show. They're watching the other bigger kids, slightly bigger kids, like 14 years old, 15 years old, showing off on their dirt bikes, going back and forth, back and forth. The problem isn't the skate park.
So I would ask, like, can we identify that once a fence or protective area or a barrier, or whatever we want to call it, and to be fair, we just haven't really defined that, and I know that we're not there yet, right? I understand that we've got to be processed too. I think that there are versions of a chain link fence or something that would actually create a barrier of sight, a barrier of like a parent accessing a child who's injured, or protecting a child from a bully. There are things that could become barriers, and because we don't know what it is yet, I apologize, I'm not trying to moralize any kind of like idea, right? So what I do think though is that if we come up with something, whatever the idea is, we have to be able to like hypothetically say it will fix the thing. If we say one side has rocks on it, think that if, we're worried about people cutting through, they'll cut through another side. If we're worried about, if the main concern is kids pushing scooters and bikes, and it only fixes that, then I think we should ask, is it worth the landscaping cost or the fencing cost of just preventing like the occasional scooter that flies through, as opposed to the 9 out of 10 argument that maybe is happening across the street by the dog park?
Sure, and I'd like to say, at least in my experience, that a high majority of the problems that result in a call to the police are not happening on the skate park at all. They're happening in the parking lot. They're happening in front of the dog park. They're happening in the pavilion. My wife and my 2-year-old were walking from this all the way to the other playground, which is over by the softball fields, and almost got run over by a dirt bike over there, unrelated here. Now, what happens is if they're over there and there's a call, it says, hey, I'm at the skate park, but in my experience, the majority is not even happening on the place of the skate park at all. So if the problem is car or rocks to the cars or on the path or whatever, the fence or around the skate park is not going to inhibit that at all if they're just going to continue to throw rocks at the cars or whatever it is. It just seems kind of unrelated to me. I mean, along the path there are the workout areas. They don't have fences. There's the playground. The playgrounds don't have fences. So it just seems, I totally agree with you on protecting the experience and protecting the asset, and I think that, I believe if the fence would do that, I think that would be what we should do. I just don't think it's going to make a difference. I think it's just going to be a cost that is unneeded, that where we need to focus is what you guys are already doing, and things like the drones are making a big difference, and we're seeing
That's
that
why I said,
impact.
I don't mind being back here in
Sure.
another 4 to 6 months and
Yeah.
having this discussion all over
Yeah.
again.
Sure, and we might have to. I mean, we get that.
I wonder if the newness of kind of like what kids do when there's something new out there, they congregate there, there's starting stuff, because it's the fairgrounds always be in that neutral ground that people would meet on to either, middle schools have been called into middle schools because fights happen at the fairgrounds, like it's been a neutral place for youth, and whether it's violence or collectively gathering. And I wonder if the newness of like the skate park experience has worn off a little bit to where it's not, they're not there to just kind of like cause havoc or raise hell, I should say.
I mean, it might be, we talk about that a lot. I think to Kristen's point, we're also not necessarily at the peak of the summer season. We
Yeah.
might see a very different
Until school's
situation in August or when school's out. I mean, we're pretty humbled by not being able to predict this, right? And we do kind of put ourselves out there and like approach youth, try to do it carefully. Yeah, I don't want to like overemphasize that.
But I think this needs to be treated just like any other amenity in our park, in that you have the initial okay, which is very nice. But there will be things that have to be done to that, as time goes through. And the councilman's probably exactly right, and probably something we would want to do anyway, is 4 to 6 months, come back and say, hey, here is what has been done. Here's what the Parks Department has done around the site. Whatever that means, right? Because ultimately it is born out of somewhat of frustration when you have an amenity like this that you all put so much work and my staff's putting so much work in, and seeing it abused. And I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, because I go out there still quite a bit, and I see it being used every bit as much now as it was when I won't say the first week, but as soon as after it opened.
Sure.
And
It's
I
so
would
popular.
expect that to happen,
Yeah.
but by the same token, there are still going to be things that we need to evaluate with this site that will allow us to protect that asset and not end up this being a money pit of replacing landscape every 3 weeks, or having to go wipe the graffiti off of, but we would experience that in any park, and we have experienced that in any park.
Sure.
But this one has just become had become a focal point
You know, point of interest.
for a lot of this.
Yeah.
And again, not to beat a dead horse, but I do think enforcement has helped here. But I do think this is such an amenity that has such an exposure that we need to have continual looks at it
to see how we can make it better, how we can keep it safe, not only for the people that are there, but also for the staff that have to work there, and to keep the site and the asset in a condition that is gonna make it continue to be that way.
Ryan, I'm curious, or all of you, the skate parks that you've visited, new and old and unfenced and fenced, I mean, kids all over the country are a little bit out of control these days. You know, you heard maybe earlier that the focus on crime down in Annapolis and, you know, all of the things. Are there other parks that experience these same things with rocks being thrown and, you know, the scooters being tossed into the bowls and things like that?
There's parks that get abandoned because the skaters won't use them, because there's nothing that can be done to do it. We've had incidences at the park, we've called the cops, and the cops tell the adults just to leave because, well, the kids already ran off, and there's nothing they can really do anyway. How are we supposed to protect your investment? We're the ones standing up and being like, kids, stop this. But they won't do a thing until the cops show up, and the cops don't really do anything to the kids because it's all minor stuff, so the kids just run off, and so there is no way to protect the investment.
I mean,
We're
one thing-
doing our best.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I'll say is the difference for me with this park is I spent, 3 hours a day there versus when I would travel to another park. Depending on the time of day, you can come to our park every day for 2 hours, and if I told you the 2 hours to come, you wouldn't experience a problem, and I could bank that you could hit so many days in a row.
We have 2-hour classes every Saturday.
Yeah, we've never had a problem
little
on Saturday
kids.
morning, so it really depends on when you're there, and typically when I'm traveling, I'm trying to go to places when there's not a crowd, and there's not a lot of people, so it's not really something that I can speak to as far as knowing each individual. I know that Frederick had trouble, that was the closest one, I know that their park is not in a great area, so.
Yeah, when was it Hilltop or?
Hill Street, yeah.
Hill Street started like I was in high school, and I remember not being a great skateboarder and maybe like not understanding like skate park etiquette, and older skaters would pick up your board and throw it over the fence or stomp it in half, and it would cost a lot of weeks of allowance to buy a $50 skateboard deck.
And they have a fence.
Yeah, and they had a fence, only now, like, they would use the fence against us, or kids could block us from getting out, or our parents couldn't see us clearly, or we get separated from a group really easily.
Or when I was younger, feeling trapped with, there was some shady individuals, like homeless people would go there and hang out, and it got really shady because there were corners that you couldn't really see around, and our park is great, it's wide open.
Hill Street's largely abandoned.
I mean, I will say, what I can speak to is knowing that of all the groups of people that I've seen, ours has got the most friendly. I couldn't even describe how great the community is that skates here, that they're willing to help each other, they're willing to stick up for each other. There's so many people that, if they're not supposed to be there, they'll just go around them. There's not really any yelling. People who don't like each other might run into each other and they'll still say, hey, are you okay? Or I'm sorry, it was my fault. And I never have seen that anywhere else. And it's at such a great level here, and it makes me really proud to be
You gotta be there every day, and you gotta spread the love, this town needs a little bit of it.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of us are working hard to keep that going, to make an impact on, the younger ones who are there, who are going to be doing this when we're gone.
Yeah, you were saying something?
Yeah, so, I'd be interested in seeing any solutions to specific issues, like things rolling down the hill, if we can put some rocks or something like that to stop safety issues, like you pointed out. I'd be interested in seeing that type of thing. But I think any solution we put out there, I'd be interested in having you guys at the table to represent the community if you're willing. That's me personally. But like I've seen you guys out there. I go by it every day. Saturday mornings, if it's been raining, you're out there with rags wiping the park down. So I appreciate what you guys are putting into it. And I know that, an amenity that nobody uses is a dead amenity. So I think it's an important piece of it, for me at least.
Yeah.
And we're all about the kids. I don't wanna kick any of the kids out because we've been able to get some of them rolling. They'll show up with skateboards, they'll show up with bikes, and these are kids that used to be the troublemakers. They used to be hanging out with them. And we're not able to get all of them, but we're able to get a couple of them. And we didn't do that by putting up a fence and telling them to leave. We did that by being cool with them and talking to them like real people, like no one else does.
There is an upcoming event on June 9th. I've been working with Ashley, another committee member, and the idea is that, oh, and also like it's the health department. It's like, there used to be an initiative in Maryland counties, it would say play hard, live clean. It was like a sobriety effort, if you think of like the DARE era, but maybe that was scare tactics. So people were trying to get youth interested in like positive decision making, and it meant like not just like not what you don't do every day, like drug use or tobacco or alcohol use, which is what the campaign focuses on, but more like what do you replace that with? Like what fulfilling quality of life are you enjoying? And the community decided the skate park is the right place to have it. Not just because we think it's like a nice thing, but we know that there's some kids who need access to it. So one of the things we'll be doing is giving away 150 pro quality skateboards. Because there's like a saying in skateboarding, Crail Tap, where they say, turn the haters into likers. And the idea is that, right, you just do better with more friends and you spend less energy in the wrong places. I appreciate the willingness to revisit things over and over again. Right, we get the feeling you guys are in for the long haul with us. We appreciate you guys preserving our voice. We know there's not really a committee anymore in a lot of ways. So thank you for this kind of dialogue.
Thank you guys for adding some programming, just as volunteers around that amenity in the park. And so I think that with the elected body, what we're saying is that we're here, and I know that the skate park came because of kids skate parking downtown, and the councilwoman recognizing that and spearheading that, and then grabbing the community together. Again, it's a collaborative effort. And so I hope we're not being misunderstood by attempting to protect the public, to protect the public's money and an investment, and at the same time offer the same experience. We're saying the same things.
Sure.
I just think that, we just say it a little differently.
Yeah,
So
well,
thank you guys.
I
Thank
appreciate
you
the
for your time.
suggestions with rocks and trees and things too. That's different than like a chain link fence narrative. I don't think we're that far away from the same page. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for your dedication.
Yeah. Yours too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Next, we have the preliminary agenda review. Are ready for the best part?
I'm ready for the best part.
Yeah, this is your show.
This is where everybody, y'all get to sit back a little bit.
Yeah, she loves this.
I love it. It's my favorite. So, preliminary agenda review. 6:30, we'll have the unveiling of utility box artwork in front of Washington County Free Library at 6:30. And then 7 p.m., we'll do our regular session. I'll call the meeting to order. We'll have invocation by one of us. The pledge to the flag, then announcements, rules of procedures, use of cell phones being prohibited. All correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk and should include a copy for the city clerk for inclusion in the official record. Meeting schedule for June is June 6th. We'll have a work session at 4 p.m. Tuesday, June 13th, we'll have a work session at 4 p.m. Tuesday, June 20th will be our regular session at 7 p.m. And then Tuesday, June 27th, there's no meeting because we will be at MML conference in Ocean City. And then we have guests. Oh, this is awesome. Maryland Municipal League's If I Were a Mayor contest recognition. We'll go to Olivia Thomas. Louisa Fouch, Maxwell Dobbins, Tasmeen Laval, and they're all from Paramount Elementary. I had a hard time picking 3, so there's 5. Is there 5 or 4? That's 4. We'll have citizen comments, and then public hearings. We have case number A-203-01, Nabasada Group LLC, proposed annexation. Then case number A-2023-02, Blaine Properties LP, proposed annexation. We'll do the minutes, April 4th, 11th, 18th, April 25th, and the 27th. Then our consent agenda, community engagement, open container exemption for wind down, schools out for summer, June 14th. Open container exemption for street closure for the Caribbean Festival, which would be July 1st. Then we have engineering pavement markings, Alpha Space Control LLC, Chambersburg, PA, not to exceed $50,000. Information technology, Arctic Wolf IT Security Software Annual Renewal, HPD. That looks like Corral Soft Technology Group, Reston, Virginia, $55,957.66. For the police department, dual purpose patrol and narcotic detection dog, Tri-State Canine Services, Warren, Ohio, $15,000. Various uniform shifts, Howard Uniform Company, Baltimore, Maryland, $17,096.04. And then annual contract for 5 Axton license plate readers, that's Axton Enterprises, Inc., Scottsdale, Arizona, $76,371. Public Works, replacement of the HVAC system at Hagerstown Ice Rink, MS Johnson Company, Hagerstown, Maryland, $91,150. Park Equipment, Playground Specialist, Inc., Thurmont, Maryland, $100,551.30, sorry. Open container exemption for Dolman Black Heritage Museum, June 16th and 17th. And we have for utilities, Light Line Work Services blanket contract, Diamond Electric, which is Boonesboro, Maryland, $350,000. Light again, equipment refurbishment blanket contract, Southeastern Transformer Company, Dunn, North Carolina, $70,000. Light vegetation management blanket contract, All Reliable Services, that's St. Augustine, Florida, $354,100. Light regulatory consulting services blanket contract, Power Services Agreement, GDS Associates, that's Marietta, Georgia, $75,000. Light Consulting Services, Compensation Analysis, PayPoint HR, Davidsonville, Maryland, $32,500. Light Software Support, Maintenance and License Blanket Contract, Millsoft Utility Solutions, it's Abilene, Texas, $35,235. Light Substation Maintenance and Repair Blanket Contract, TRC Companies, Lancaster, PA, $175,000. Light Underground Locating Blanket Contract, USIC Locating Services, LLC, Indianapolis, Indiana, $75,000. Light 2023 F-150 4x4 Super Cab, replacement of vehicle 102, Keystone Ford, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, $45,800. Light breaker replacement, Annexer, Westcoat, Eaton, Greenwood, Delaware, $68,806. Light meter test equipment, Radian Research, Inc., Lafayette, Indiana, $24,047.50. Water, a 10-foot fire line meters, 10-inch. Gotta have it. A 10-inch, you know. 10-inch fire line meters, Ferguson Waterworks, Frederick, Maryland, $42,537.65. Water, chlorinator, annual maintenance contract, Environmental Service and Equipment Company, Inc., Marcus Hook, PA, $11,553. Water, Polymer, is that Coy? Environmental, that's Croton, PA, $45,900. Water, Potassium, Pimenanagreen. Yeah, right, yeah. Kim Wright, Burgon, Georgia, $28,174.79. I actually asked Councilmember Asha how to pronounce that, and I forgot. Thanks to Donna letting me know it was a hard word in there. Water and wastewater, underground line marketing, USIC, Indianapolis, Indiana, $150,000. Water and wastewater, fiscal year 24, patching contract, Huntsberry Brothers, Inc., Smithsburg, Maryland, $357,339. Wastewater, change order to pelletizer contract, Black and Veatch Corporation, Gaithersburg, Maryland, $350,000. Wastewater, garage door replacement, Palmer Construction Company, McCollinsburg, PA, $101,460. Wastewater, OAB, deck repair parts, Process Solutions, Inc., Columbia, Maryland, $10,167.69. We have unfinished business, approval of ordinance, deed of easement agreement with Columbia Gas for storm drain maintenance and pedestrian access on Sycamore Street. Approval of an ordinance for deed easement with Columbia Gas for installation of gas main adjacent to Frederick Street. Approval of an ordinance for 2023 land management code amendments. Approval of ordinance for authorizing the sale of property located at 11850 Indian Lane, Hagerstown, Maryland. And then for new business, okay, so these that are not on there is introduction of ordinance, creation of transit housing chapter in the city code, introduction of an ordinance amendment to the vacant structures chapters in the city code, approval of a resolution bond issue. And then new business, approval of is still new business, approval of a resolution parking lease with Department of Juvenile Services, approval of resolution sewer capacity allocation program, SCAP amendment, approval of a resolution, addendum to the financial and incentive agreement with Aries Investment Group LLC for 86 through 98 West Washington Street, approval of a resolution parking lease for the Rochester parking lot with the Administrative Office of the Courts, approval of a resolution accepting the offer of dedication of pump station number 30 by Heggers Crossing Homeowners Association, approval of HVAC service and maintenance contract for 7/1 through 23 through 6/30/24, approval of an on-call electrical maintenance service contract, again, 7/1/23 through 6/30/24, approval of an authorization for the Director of Utilities to lock in wholesale power supply terms in wait a minute, yeah, that's it. And then approval of the Bay, it's all reading together now, y'all, I'm sorry. Approval of the Bay Restoration Fund grant application for engineering and capital projects for enhanced nutrient removal operation and maintenance. Approval of increase to non-union pay scale by 3% effective July 3rd, 2023. Approval of non-union police salary increase. City administrator comments. And then mayor and council comments, and then adjourned. Whew. Can I repeat it?
Please do.
Hey, can we go back to, start at the consent agenda and go down, since I missed the beginning?
Good job, Bob.
I
You got me.
Would anybody do
You got me. I was like, are you serious? Next up, we have Farmers Market Agreement. Brittany Ayers is our Community Engagement Officer. Brittany?
So this evening, we are just bringing before you the farmer's market agreement. Since we changed location this year, it's in a property no longer owned by the city of Hagerstown. So we just needed to do an agreement with David Blackman from Hub City Brewery. Attached is the agreement. It has been reviewed by legal. So at this point, I just need to get David to sign that. And our first farmer's market is this Thursday, so I'm putting a plug in for that, from 3 to 6 p.m. at 25 West Church Street. We pared it down this year, so we're doing it once a month, just to gauge, and we're doing it on a different day of the week. Last year it was on Saturdays, it was every Saturday. We only had 1 to 2 vendors. So we're doing it once a month, the third Thursday, outdoor seasonal market. So first one will be this Thursday, May 18th, from 3 to 6 p.m., 25 West Church Street. We have over 15 vendors for this one, and I actually think we have more in June, July, and through the rest of the season. So hopefully it should be a success, and just looking for if this looks okay to everyone.
Looks fine to me. Looks good.
Okay.
Exciting.
And great job on the marketing of the market, so, yeah, it's really, it's awesome. Looking forward to it Thursday.
Awesome.
Thank you. But don't go anywhere.
I'm staying here.
Hi.
We have the Caribbean Festival with Brittany Ayers-Mendy, Community Engagement Officer, along with Erica Bell. She's got the juice from Tripool Press. And I don't see Jamia here.
She's not here this evening. I'll let Erica take the lead on this.
Okay, I only got one packet, but if y'all want to kind of briefly scan over it just to see
what we got going on. So we already had our first meeting with the city. So it looks like everything is a go as far as times and officers that we have to have, et cetera, et cetera. It's a Caribbean Fest. We wanted to bring awareness to a growing Caribbean community in our town. And we thought, what better way than to block off Potomac Street? So it's right in between Washington and Antietam. So we have gotten permission to block off that whole block. So we will just be in that block the whole day, pretty much.
So it's going to be the same space as we have Wind Down, the Halloween block party, very similar setup. From noon to 6 p.m. is when the event is scheduled.
Yes.
So we'll be seeking, with the open container for vibes, also the road closure for that day. So the road will be closed, I believe, from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. So we'll let all of the business owners know. The good thing is it's a holiday weekend, so hopefully people who aren't doing a whole lot will come down to this event. And we're excited. It's a new event downtown, which is offering a different cultural experience. So I think that will be something exciting for the city.
Yes, and also what we wanted to kind of engage is just different partnerships with the downtown businesses and give everybody an opportunity to, have also something going on as well for that day. With it, also the Maryland Theater has given us a go of their front area as like a stage for entertainment. So they've been amazing with that. I already talked to Vaughn with the liquor board. She's my go-to girl. She's great. So talked to her yesterday, and she's kind of ready for us to move forth as well. We did think we needed a nonprofit, but we don't. Jamie can just apply for what's it called?
Liquor license, a one-day event liquor license.
I think she called it like a for-profit.
For-profit, yes.
Yeah, so we can do it that way, and we already know we have to have 2 officers on site since there will be alcohol from 12 to 6, and the barriers just will indicate how far we can go as far as with the alcohol. I did also ask if we could have a go at the parking lot that sits in between of 28 South and I think it's a church.
Which is privately owned.
Which is
yes.
Mike, so I know Mike. Let's see if he'll let us use that. We want to kind of use that area for all food trucks, but the dilemma will be, it's kind of like a drop. I never walked through it until I walked through it, and I was like, well, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's not the best place for a food truck. I mean.
Up at the top of the hill, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right, at the
I was gonna
top.
say the church.
Yeah, it's okay, but it's like,
Yeah,
if you've never walked through it, you're like, oh, I didn't know it did all this.
Mm-hmm.
I never walked through it until the other day.
There's been food trucks. Right?
And I believe
Okay.
they've set up bounce houses there as well. So the top of the space is fine. It's just once you get about halfway back in.
Yeah. So I did talk to principal at Barbara Ingram's, and what we also want to do is give the students an opportunity to get the SSL hours. So we will have kids like face painting, just kind of like really carnival style. So any way that they can kind of bring on their style of stuff, we want to give them leeway to get some hours, and the city to back us on this, and any participating businesses. So.
And I think Jamie had mentioned in one of our meetings that costumes are encouraged. So when we say carnival, we're not talking Ferris wheel. We're talking
about Caribbean, like,
feathers. Carnival. Yes.
So
just to clarify.
We get some really creative costumes, and if you've seen some of the Caribbean ladies, you know that they kind of come
Dressed and ready.
or not.
And my daughters are already prepped.
And half a costume.
Yeah.
Basically.
They're already prepped. Thanks.
Is there any benefit to promoting this, like in a translated form into Spanish? for
that's a good idea.
for the promotion of it. I know
Yeah.
that we've worked, with the state of the city to be translated, so.
Probably Spanish and possibly even Portuguese and French.
Yeah, I don't know any of I don't know any of those languages,
Yeah.
but I'm just making it might be a benefit to include
Absolutely.
our Spanish-speaking population.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I'll definitely run that past Jamie. And we're all aware that we need to add the city onto our insurances, so I'll add it onto mine. Jamie will add it onto hers. I don't know if we both need ours, or if one business is sufficient enough for the add-on.
Yeah, we can figure that out.
Okay.
And then they're requesting an event sponsorship. That will be in the new fiscal year. So we'll take care of all of that after the FY '24 budget is passed and approved. So we're on that.
Look at you.
I'm excited.
It's
a new idea in the area.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for the creativity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Something new.
Something new.
Thank you.
Something borrowed, something new.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next we have our budget review. Michelle Hepburn, Chief Financial Officer,
What a tease.
and Brooke Garver, Accounting and Budget.
Gosh.
Good evening.
He's gonna go.
Actually, I'm going to give you an option. Brooke is here, and we're still prepared to cover the last two funds for you in the budget. But there is really nothing for us to highlight in either stormwater or golf. There's no changes, there's nothing going on with rates.
I think you
It's pretty
should
much
still do
status
the
quo.
We're
And I know you got budget.
all.
No, okay, so,
You don't get a vote.
It was very detailed, extensive.
but I'll give you 20 minutes if you want to ask me questions. Then maybe we could skip to the next one, and that way it keeps you on track. Only because I know the other things are really important here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Not that you're not important.
No, I know,
Do you wanna come up here, Brooke? You can just sit up here if you want.
she did stay this whole time.
I know she did.
Brooke, you can leave at 4:30 tomorrow if you'd like.
Oh, it'd be nice.
Yeah, there you go.
They really like you around here, don't they?
How much more flexible can I be?
I was just gonna say, talk about flexible.
No comment, Councilman Rucci, no comment from you. Oh, my goodness.
I just can't, I just need to wear layers. Sorry, we're ready.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
So Michelle and I are here to talk about reserved funds that were part of the Community City Center Plan, Catalyst #1, Office Development and Recruitment. So back in 2014, we issued an RFQ seeking a developer for office recruitment on the central parking lot. The RFQ included reference to setting aside $250,000, and it also referenced that if a project didn't move forward and the performance measures referenced in the RFQ were not met during a 5-year period, that the city could terminate any kind of partnership or relationship. So we're well past the 5-year timeframe, and we're here to discuss releasing and redirecting those funds. The funding was part of the original First Third program, which was funded with fund balance reserves. And this was before the creation of the Invest Hagerstown program that was funded with a change in the tax rate. And it is shown in the budget book on section 4, page 11, which is attached to the memo under future commitment.
Right, I'm sorry. It's part of the special revenue fund section because the monies would have been in economic redevelopment. And for those of you that remember the First Third program fondly, the big difference is it was funded by general fund balance reserve. There was a set specific dollar amount that mayor and council put aside for that program. And once it was used, that was it. Separately, we did the Invest Hagerstown program, and Joel did an excellent job in describing it. What happened was several years ago, through administration, we raised the tax rate, and a certain, like 3 cents on every dollar is to go towards continuing the Invest Hagerstown program and to keep that flowing. So this money has been reserved. It's not in our unassigned general fund balance reserve. We have continued to account for it in the budget book, because even though the deadline has passed until we came back to mayor and council and had additional action, we couldn't uncommit it because the vote happened, so we need a vote to either uncommit it or reallocate it. I know Jill has a lot of ways that she would probably utilize this as another economic incentive, but what I would like to ask the group to consider, because it's fund balance reserve, is that we go ahead and allocate this over to the Hagerstown Fieldhouse. I need every dollar that I can. You know, it's $250,000 we wouldn't have to bond.
I mean,
Yep.
I'm okay with that,
Yeah.
although I do understand Joe.
I'm definitely supportive of what Michelle would like to do. The next thing I was gonna say is Michelle has a specific use in mind for this funding.
It's still economic development.
If
It is,
we
for
weren't
sure.
able, and if we weren't setting aside current revenues towards the incentive programs, right? I would never suggest this, but really, the field house is going to be that. It's going to be tourism, it's going to be
Absolutely.
recreation, it's going to be, right?
It serves the same purpose, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's $250,000 we don't have to rate, that's awesome.
That's right. You don't have to borrow it.
So that's our
Yeah.
recommendation. We would come back with a motion to redirect, correct?
Right, and we don't, because the May agenda was really long and we didn't actually put it on as a topic, we'll,
June.
yes, if that's okay. And I will also include some additional monies that we have in the general fund this year due to interest revenue that I would like to go ahead and set aside now to put there as well. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Next up, we have proposed amendment to sewer capacity allocation program, SCAP. We have Kathy Marr, Director of Planning and Code Administration,
And Nancy Hosra.
and Nancy,
Oh, starting and ending.
Utilities.
Best for last.
Yes.
Yes, we're going for brief. Go for brief, I like that.
Yep,
Been a
all
long
right. So this is a proposal to amend the sewer capacity allocation program, which is how we allocate our wastewater to development in the city and in our, in the outer area that's served by the utility. And in 2009, we had a certain type of distribution of the allocation that was 60,000 gallons per day was going to residential in the city, and 20,000 gallons per day was going to commercial. In 2009, as we all remember, the economy kind of went into the toilet, and the residential got sucked into that toilet harder than anybody else. And so we weren't doing much in the way of approving new residential development. And so we came to the mayor and council about shifting that formula a little bit, and so it was going 50,000 to residential and 30, a little bit more towards commercial. And that worked great until, in very recent years, we've seen escalating interest again in residential development. And so it's starting to get more competitive, and so we're suggesting that we go back to what it was in 2009, which is 60,000 gallons per day allocated for new residential development, and back to 20,000 gallons per day for the commercial stuff. That will help, because it's still not a lot. That's only 300 housing units a year, so it's still gonna be slowly distributed to this new stuff we've got some significant things that need to be allocated yet that are in the pipeline wanting to get approved. And so it makes it a little easier for them, but it's gonna be a slow rollout. And Nancy assures me that going back down to 20,000 for the commercial will not be a problem.
Yeah. Unless something crazy happens, we're not seeing that right now, so, where we are seeing the residential, so I'm comfortable with this recommendation.
And if you're comfortable with this change to go back to the way it was in 2009, it would be done by resolution, and we could do it next week.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very brief.
We have a special session. It's our 69th voting session. And I need a motion to go into special session.
Madam Mayor, hereby move to go into special session.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of an ordinance, tax rates beginning July 1, 2023.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of an ordinance on May 16, 2023, to establish the city's tax rates for the fiscal year July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, on the basis of $1.002 per $100 of assessed value of all real property and 2.505 per $100 of assessed value of all business personal property within the city of Hagerstown.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of an ordinance, budget fiscal year 2023 and 2024.
Madam Mayor, hereby move for the approval of an ordinance on May 16, 2023, to adopt the city's budget for fiscal year July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, in the amount of $214,986,818.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Introduction of an ordinance to amend the city code by repealing and reenacting chapter 140, the land management code.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council approve an ordinance to amend the city code by repealing and reenacting Chapter 140 Land Management Code. The reenacted Land Management Code includes the 2023 package of annual revisions finalized by the mayor and city council. This reenacted version of the Land Management Code shall be known as version 3.10.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Introduction of an ordinance authorizing the sale of property located at 11850 Indian Lane, Hagerstown, Maryland.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move to introduce an ordinance authorizing the sale of property located at 11850 Indian Lane, Hagerstown, Maryland, to Ryan Daughtridge and Rory Cannon for a purchase price of $625,000. The sale will be in accordance with all of the terms and conditions outlined in the attached contract of sale.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It was like double dutch. She already jumped in, but you spoke up first. She like, she was about to jump in and missed that. City administrator.
All right, Mayor, just a couple things. Brittany already talked about the farmer's market on Thursday, 3 to 6. There'll also be the Edmund McElhenney Tabasco Chili Cook-Off and Music Festival. BISFA Instrumental Music Department fundraiser in University Plaza, Saturday the 20th from 12 to 5. That sounds like fun. And National Pike Festival is this Saturday. The wagon train will stop in front of the Maryland Theater about 1:15. Then head to City Park around 2 o'clock, and I have to have my grandkids at the end of Wilson, or at the end of Summit Avenue, probably about 3 o'clock. So hopefully my wife hears this and will remind me to do that. That's it for me.
Councilwoman McIntyre.
Really quick, I just want to give a shout out to Latrina Hines Bean. And I think that most of us here actually helped her with, she is a substitute teacher at, I guess through the county, but primarily at Western Heights, and took the Teacher Appreciation Week to another level. She got all kinds of donations from all over, from members of this body, and I mean to tell you, that is a heck of an effort for her to do that. And giant thanks for what she did, and I'm sure that there are other members of the community that do the same thing for Teacher Appreciation Week. I just happen to be close to this one. So thank you, Latrina. Maybe there's something that we can do for her as a city, because that is just one heck of a community effort. So thank you. That's it.
Councilman Brookshire. Councilwoman Burnett.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilman Schindler.
I think everybody should come out on Saturday to the chili cook-off. Excited to judge that. And I will echo what Councilmember McIntyre.
You can just say
Tongue tied.
Shelley.
Yeah, what Shelley said about Mrs. Bean. She does a fantastic job for the community, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Did you want to?
No.
Okay.
You can do it.
Okay. So National Police Week begins Sunday?
No, it began this week.
It began
This
this,
week.
oh, it ends.
And
So this,
tomorrow will be the
You wanna do it?
recognition at 10 o'clock.
he's doing it anyway. So this is National Police Week. Tomorrow will be recognition at 10 a.m. Also, please.
Up at HPD.
Yes.
We're doing it, this is the collaborative effort, we're doing it together. HPD, 10 a.m. tomorrow. Yep. All right, what is my closing comment? I just want to piggyback on Mrs. Bean. Amazing to see, and this was her 5th year that she has consistently been committed to serving the teachers on the last day of Teacher Week. I met her at the Penny Mart that is in the old 7-Eleven on Salem Avenue to get the ice cream. And actually, the owner was in there. He came out and donated on the spot 15 pizzas. And I have not seen anyone like Mrs. Bean be very driven to feeding the teachers at a school. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. And then also for the owner to come outside and just engage that quickly, and then the next morning, 10:30 a.m., he had 15 pizzas ready for her. So yes, I definitely agree that we should definitely do something to honor Mrs. Bean. She has taken this to another level when it comes to honoring. She didn't ask for anything. She just goes around and makes her own partnerships. I've seen her partner with Walmart. I've seen her sharing like Walmart supervisors pictures of and thanking them for like donating. I'm like, wow, her relationship building within community and within chain and also within us engaging us. I mean, she had someone else reach out to me that was a previous elected official. And so she uses her relationship. So that I believe relationships are our greatest resource, and seeing someone like Mrs. Bean work very hard to honor some of the teachers in community is incredible. And I will end this with reading my comments, with reading this mayor essay from Blessing. And I can't pronounce the last name, so I'm just gonna say Blessing at, can you?
No, I can't do that one, I'm sorry.
she was gonna help me.
Usually I'm pretty good at that, but I can't. I'd be afraid to slaughter that.
We don't wanna mess this up.
Engemise.
So Blessing is a 4th grader at Paramount. And Blessing's mayor essay says, if I were mayor, I would like to add more adult events and make more events for parents and kids. I would make more events for families that want to have a better relationship with their kids. Those events could be if they just want to have fun with each other or spend more time together. And I would try to add events for everybody, especially people with disabilities. If I were mayor, I'd like to change a few things like how people act in downtown Hagerstown. There is a tradition of people smoking and taking drugs, and it's not good for their health. I will also be having meetings with the people of Hagerstown to help them stop from ruining their bodies. So I will let the people help make a better area to live in and place that is safe and secure. And if I were mayor, I would tell the people what I'm suggesting, and if the people have any questions or suggestions, I would answer them. Then if they want to help with the ideas, they can be a part of helping the city get better. That's what I would do if I were the mayor. And with that, we're adjourned. What a blessing.
Yeah, that's adorable. We want the same thing.
Ruining their bodies. I mean.
we've secured over 15 vendors for each event. We'll have live music and some type of craft or activity for kids to do as well.
Shed a little insight on how this has been received on social media so far.
So far, so good, I would say. We have been building up to Thursday, so we've received very positive feedback. We've had a lot of interest, and we're actually still getting interested vendors as well. So we're still accepting vendors, especially looking for fresh produce. So if you are a vendor or know of someone, we certainly welcome them, and we're hoping to have a great turnout so vendors will continue to return and spread the word that, hey, this is a great market to come to.
And what's the process for vendors, even here as we're nearing the 11th hour, at least for the first one?
So it's actually relatively simple. It's free to vend at the farmer's market. You can just visit mainstreethagerstown.org /farmers market. There's a very simple form there to fill out. Then that comes to our staff. We review that, and then we'll get in touch with you. Actually, usually within 24 hours, we'll get in touch, letting you know what additional paperwork we need, and that's how easy it is.
Yeah, it seems pretty cool to be going back to that site for what will be a farmer's market, as you said, the third Thursday of the month, all the way through October. So if people can't be here for this one, or vendors just sort of getting wind of this, might not work for them, there are more to come. So we just hope that we'll get a good turnout for this. Again, going back to a different venue from last year, kind of a different format, different day, all of those things. Hope that all this comes together and it is something that, again, is well attended.
That's what we're hoping for. Looks like the weather's supposed to be nice. This will be rain or shine.
Okay.
So we'll be out there, fingers crossed. There's, I believe, 7 markets throughout this season. So fingers crossed, we just need 7 days of nice weather.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Again, just the kickoff for the third Thursday markets here over the next 6 months. And then the other item on the agenda, you kind of go from going back in time to the farmer's market at the site that so many people were familiar with it being held at for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden we've got a Caribbean festival or Carnival coming to downtown Hagerstown.
Yes, so this event was brought to the city from Vibes Lounge and Tribe Cold Press. So the owners of those two businesses, they're the ones spearheading this initiative. They're working with the city for logistics, but this event we're really excited about. It's brand new. It will be on South Potomac Street on Saturday, July 1st, which is July 4th weekend. So we're hoping a lot of people will be in town, may have some time off. So the event is from noon to 6 p.m. There will be food vendors, there will be open containers, so there will be alcohol served. There will be live music. It should just really be a fun time for everyone.
And I heard during the meeting lots of costumes, a lot of flair to this particular event, something that's a little bit different, as you mentioned during the meeting, very cultural in a way that perhaps is something that we haven't really experienced in Hagerstown, but we're getting a lot of tastes of a lot of different things. So this certainly fits that narrative and the way that we're kind of going, a lot of different areas that we've been touching recently, and it seems like there are still some that we haven't tapped into, but all of a sudden, Caribbean festival. So who would have thought?
Right, and I think that goes to show the value of the event sponsorships that community engagement has to offer to
Yes.
our businesses, our organizations here. That is the whole goal, is that the city can help sponsor more events, so because it's the people that bring the diversity to the city.
Right.
So the more people we have creating unique and different events, I think the more we will get to see the culture that Hagerstown has to offer that we may not know exists.
Yeah, something for everyone is sort of a cliche, but we're getting closer and closer to that. How did this come about? Do you know the genesis of this?
Jamie from Vibes Lounge, I believe she actually is Caribbean. and she can correct me if I'm wrong, and I apologize. But this was her idea. This was her
Okay.
kind of brainstorm, and we met and discussed it. And I said, I think this would be a great idea. So she saw this need to fit a very certain demographic that we may not have been celebrating here in Hagerstown. So she is filling that gap, and she hopefully is going to put on an amazing event.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, it sounds like something that she has the background on, so I'm sure she'll deliver on this without question. Something that we've seen you doing recently is putting your face on camera and talking about the upcoming events, really what's happening in Hagerstown. We saw you at Handmade Hagerstown first, and then at the Gordon's Grocery anniversary celebration, and then down at Happy Hour last week, letting people know what's happening because there is so much going on. So we'll give you another forum here to talk about what's coming up here in the next week or so, or however far you want to go with that.
We do have a lot going on. Eric and I have been doing bi-weekly updates of what's going on because there is a lot going on and it's hard to keep track. So next weekend, we have the city's big first event of the year, which is Imagine Hagerstown. So that's our fourth Friday music series, kind of kickoff to the summer, which will feature the Reagan Years, which is an 80s tribute band. And then we have an opener, Wild Whispers, that will happen before that. That's in University Plaza from 5 to 8 p.m. Happening at the same time and almost in the same place, the Alsatia Club is hosting Thunder in the Square, which is a classic car show. That usually gets a nice crowd in itself. So that plus the Imagine Hagerstown with the Reagan Years. And then to top it off,
There's more.
there is more. Hagerstown Community College is hosting Hagerstown Startup Week, which is for entrepreneurs and businesses. That's May 22nd through the 26th. They are wrapping up their week with their grand finale here in downtown Hagerstown with a music stroll. So before you come to Imagine Hagerstown or check out Thunder in the Square, the music stroll will be happening from 3 to 6 p.m. All throughout the different businesses, mainly on on Potomac Street and West Washington Street. So you just check in at Public Square with Justina from HCC, and she'll get you everything you need so you can figure out where to go for that stroll.
Wow, what a great idea.
And I must note, all of these activities are free and open to the public.
My only question is, when is that professional wrestling coming to University Plaza?
We have many people that are very excited about, to my knowledge, the first ever professional outdoor wrestling event in downtown. So that is being hosted by Voltage Wrestling and will take place again in University Plaza Friday, June 2nd. That's at 7:30 p.m. So mark your calendars.
Oh, I have.
All you WWE people out there, it's not my thing, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of people. I know they
Right.
love it. So it should be another fun event. Again, free and open to the public. All ages are invited. I think the Doghouse will be providing food there. So again, another different
Very different.
type of cultural experience
Yes, it
that
is.
you're bringing to downtown Hagerstown. So.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that for a couple of reasons. One, the venue, because to me, that is going to be so cool to have a professional wrestling ring set up in University Plaza. And number two, because we had a professional wrestling school here in Hagerstown for a long, long time with Neil Superior and his family.
Okay.
So it's kind of neat to see kind of the grassroots wrestling promotion in Voltage, which is certainly not to the level of a WWE, but at the same time, it has its following. It's very much right here in the area. Can you tell that I've been on the website quite a bit?
You know way more than
Yeah,
I do.
and I've certainly marked it on my calendar, as I said. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I really am. I think that's going to be really cool for a number of reasons. But, man, we have got so much going on. How do people keep up with all this? I know you send out a newsletter, but is there, tell us where we can go and just kind of look at the list.
Sure. So Facebook, follow Downtown Hagerstown. Instagram, Downtown Hagerstown. website, downtownhagerstown.org, click on events, you can see our whole calendar. ImagineHagerstown.org has all of our live music events that are happening. So really, downtownhagerstown.org is the best place, or just follow us on social media.
Yeah, it feels like it's really ramping up as the weather gets nicer here. We move toward the end of spring and into summertime, much more happening. And as we say all the time internally, there is so much going on. People just need to pay attention because now it's really, really being promoted. If you don't know what's going on, you're just not paying attention. So please pay attention to what's going on. You don't want to miss one of these because there are such unique events taking place.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Brittany, appreciate your time here this evening. Look forward to seeing more of you promoting these events and just getting as many people out to enjoy these as possible, because that's truly what it's all about. Because you don't let these efforts go to waste here, because there's a lot going on to bring all of these things to all of us here in Hagerstown. We just need to get out and enjoy them. And as Brittany said, the majority of them are free. So, that it's not cost prohibitive in any way. Again, thanks to Brittany. Thanks to you for watching. For now, that's a wrap. We'll see you next time on Council Wrap.